Groves Town Council. Can we have the roll call, please?
Mayor Browning,
Here.
Vice Mayor Terrell,
Here.
Councilman Wilson,
Here.
Councilman Leeang,
Here.
Councilman Henry.
Here. Okay, can you stand for the pledge, remain standing for the invocation? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, we ask for wisdom and guidance in this meeting tonight. We pray for those that are serving our country overseas. Keep them safe and help us to dry out. We pray in your name. Amen. Okay, moving to the approval of the agenda. Anybody have anything to add or take away?
Yes, I'd like to do an addendum under old business, Compton Road temporary repairs by Los Angeles Road Water Control District on potholes.
Okay, under old business. Number 10A.
Right.
Everybody all right with that? Anybody else? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Okay, a motion made by Jim, second by Ryan. Further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Moving to the consent agenda. We have a motion to accept. We have one thing. I guess we need a minutes approval, the revised for the July, what is that, the June 2nd meeting? Is that correct?
You got the workshop and the regular meeting for July 2nd. You have revised from June 18th.
Okay. All right, so do I need to accept the consent agenda? That's a separate item?
Well, that is the only item on consent.
Okay, all right. So I'll entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I move to accept the consent agenda.
Okay, thank you, Jim, for a second.
Second.
Second by Ron. Further discussion, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. All right, for public comments, I've got Samantha Serbar. Yeah, if you want to come up. And, oh, you want to be read in, or you going to?
I'm going to give Penny Riccio the permission to speak with Sebastian.
Okay. All right. We have Serdar Trucking and Tractor Services, my business. I have designated Penny Riccio to be my representative in all business concerning Los Angeles Road. All right, and then the second one is Penelope and Riccio.
Imagine that.
Yeah. Well, you put your name on there like that, that's what.
I'm headed up there, thank you. I have received and filed, I'm giving to Susan to give to the board and to the attorney, please, and the town manager. I believe I made enough copies. Mayor Browning and distinguished board members, thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Serdar Trucking and Tractor Company is a woman-owned, minority-owned, small business enterprise, designated business. It most assuredly is the pleasure of the company, Mr. and Mrs. Serdar, to serve in the capacity of mower and vegetative removal service for the town of Waxahachie Groves. Before you, we have provided a progress report in which we have established a very methodical, efficient, and effective way of providing the town of Waxahachie Groves with top quality service. In our capacity as experts, we are asking at the pleasure of the town council to establish a cyclical mowing schedule of mowing 60 miles of town roads. You designated 30 miles, but when we mow up one side and down the other, thereby making it 60 miles of town roads every 45 days with the list of roadways provided to us so kindly by your town manager, Mark Cutney. The reason for the request is twofold. One, the current state of town roads was found upon close inspection to be overgrown and in rather disarray, with various forms of vegetation, including but not limited to weeds, vines, trees, and shrubs. In order to maintain the standards to which we have landscaped your roads, we would need to have constant and consistent access to your roads on a 45-day revolving basis, repeating the mowing of the same named roads as provided by your town manager, whom we thank very much for his consideration and respect, every 45 days. To go outside of that pattern would lead to the same problems that you have currently in place. Second, the vegetation is growing on canal banks, along the town roadway easements, to the canal banks, thereby blocking maintenance of town canals, which directly affects the concerns that FEMA has about the town of Waxahachie Groves, as well as the town council. FEMA has designated several western communities, including the town of Waxahachie Groves, as a flood zone. We would like to partner with the town to help you address the problem of accessing your canals in order for you to get control of the flooding and resolve the situation to everyone's satisfaction. Lastly, our services have been well received overwhelmingly from your residents and your community, and we do thank them so much. They come out of their homes to greet us and thank us so much for the service. And the first question they ask, did the town send you? And we tell them, yes, we have a contract with the town, and they are just very, very pleased. As we all know, good customer care is the heart and soul of all businesses. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Again, thank you so much for choosing us.
Okay, thank you, Penny. Any questions or comments, Board? Mark?
Yeah, I do have a comment, Mayor. I'm very sad that this has come up because I do believe that Sadar so far has come out of the gate. They've been doing a great job based upon the notice to proceed that we gave them. In this case, notice to proceed is a work authorization. They, as they proposed here, they seem to want an open purchase order in which they would just continue to mow and maintain. And I've advised them and told them very clearly, we've already established a contract, read the contract. Specifically, item 2.3 and 2.4. 2.3 states, mowing maintenance will be performed on road segments pursuant to a schedule agreed upon by the parties. Notwithstanding the foregoing, the town shall have no obligation to engage the services of Sadar for a specified number of times. This is what you all talked about when we were talking about the contract for this service. Secondly, 2.4 states, trimming and or removing trees and shrubbery that create a hazard to roadway users will be performed on all town road segments on an as-needed, when-needed basis, but only with the advanced written direction and approval of the town manager or designee, and will include a work authorization number, scope of work to be completed, and time of completion. Now, I've advised them we will be flexible, but they need to live within the confines of this contract. And if they didn't read it, they missed it, I'm sorry, but this is the way we've determined we were going to proceed, based upon your direction to the town attorney and myself. And I told them where we can be flexible, we would be happy to do that. But I just don't appreciate the vendor coming in, and they're only getting ready to start their second notice to proceed, and they already want to change the terms of the contract or actually tell us how to proceed with the contract. I don't appreciate that. And I will talk to them after this meeting.
Okay, moving on to, I've got a request, Linda Coer. First off, she says to the town council, thank you, thank you, thank you. We on 161st really appreciate the trimming job by Sadar Trucking. We can now pass oncoming cars without falling off the road and not scratch our cars or motorhomes. We have lived here for over 30 years, and this is the first time the road has been trimmed. Our mail lady was very happy. And then in this, it says, this one, on 161st Terrace, I feel a danger exists at a 90-degree turn on the southwest beginning of the road. Vision is restricted to oncoming traffic. I feel the town could be sued unless this is corrected. I recommend a blind drive gear be installed for the property owner, remove the vegetation and replant it. So I'll pass these on to you, Mark. All right, that's all the comment cards I've got. So moving to, there's no presentations, no committee report, no public hearings. We are at 7A. Mark?
That's correct, sir?
Go ahead and read the ordinance title and the presentation. Good evening. Ordinance number 2013-04. The ordinance of the Town Council of the Town of Waxahachie, Florida, updating the 5-year schedule of improvements for the capital improvements element of the Town of Waxahachie comprehensive plan pursuant to state statute, providing for conflict, severability, and effective date.
All right. Let's get a motion in a second, and then we'll discuss it. Is that all right with everybody? I'll entertain a motion to accept this capital improvements, schedule for improvements. We're going to discuss it first. All right.
Change the motion.
All right, let's kick it around.
Do you want
Open
to
for
take
discussion.
here, or do you want to,
What's that?
do you want a presentation from staff?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm going to turn this over to Jim in a second, but as you know, one of the work authorizations from the management company was to take and to amend the CIE, and of course this was to address the issues with the 5-cent gas tax. And one of the things we discovered, and we wanted to get this moving so we wouldn't have any issues, Mr. Fleischman did check with the state, and we can do a schedule this way. This is the way most cities that have had a schedule in place do it. They pretty much send a new CIE updated to the state, and the state goes ahead, receives and files. I don't want to steal Mr. Fleischman's thunder, I'll let him talk about the rest of it, but the bottom line is what we're trying to do is to schedule today to get us in a position where we then have the information in place to go ahead and appropriately spend 5-cent monies, but then we'll come back and do the actual amendments to the language, the policy language that's in the plan. But for right now, what you have before you with this ordinance are the schedules of public improvements, and Jim can go over that.
Okay. Jim?
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Mayor. As Mike said, the ordinance is an update to the 5-year schedule of capital improvements in the capital improvements element of the comprehensive plan. We're actually doing this, as Mark stated, in 2 phases. We have the work authorization from the town council to go back and essentially do a comprehensive update of all of the elements in the comprehensive plan that have anything to do with capital improvements. But because of the timing and the necessity to have the actual schedule of improvements in place so that it justifies the spending of the 5-cent gas tax money, we're actually updating the schedule of improvements first, and then we're going to be bringing back the updated text of the comprehensive plan at a later date, probably starting either next month or first thing in September. Most of the updates are already finished. The updates to the text have to go through a much longer review process, including being reviewed by the Planning and Zoning Board through several scheduled public hearings, whereas the 5-year schedule of improvements itself, this has to be adopted by ordinance of the town council. And that's why it seems like we might be doing this a little backwards, but because of the timing and the lengthy review process associated with the text amendments, we felt that we had to do it. The staff report for this item is on page 44 of the agenda package, and the ordinance itself starts on page 45. The current comprehensive plan, which was adopted in 2009, actually did not have a 5-year schedule of improvements in it. The town went through the comprehensive plan process, got to the capital improvements element and essentially said, we don't have an improvement schedule. So the schedule of improvements is included with this ordinance. Actually, is the first time that we have included a schedule of improvements in the capital plan. And I checked with the state, even though we don't have a schedule in the comprehensive plan now, we can still treat this as an update. The fact that we said no improvements essentially was our schedule of improvements at that time. So what we have done is let me back up just for a second. There's a requirement in the state comprehensive planning law that the schedule of improvements be updated on an annual basis. Comprehensive plan was adopted in 2009. The town hasn't done updates to this point, but this being the first updated schedule from now on, we should update it on an annual basis. Also, Florida statutes requires that the 5-cent gas tax revenue money be referenced in the capital improvement element. And I mentioned in there as the basis for spending that money on road improvements. So we're essentially killing two birds with one stone. With this schedule, we're meeting the comprehensive planning requirements, and we're also meeting the 5-cent gas tax requirement for including improvements in the comprehensive plan. And what we've done to this point is essentially take projects out of the town's 5-year capital plan that was presented last month as part of the budget. And it's essentially parroted those improvements, included them in this schedule of improvements, and we've also added a couple other projects that are required by state law, those being projects that are planned by DOT and other projects that the town is looking at that are not necessarily road-related improvements. So all of the improvements that are in this schedule of improvements were included in the town's 5-year capital plan for the budget, with the exception of the DOT projects that are related to Southern Boulevard. And those have been included in there as well. And in addition to that, the paving and opening of the medical office complex over on F Road that is going to be done in the near future as well. We do have the ability to make changes to the 5-year schedule in between first and second reading, and staff intends to include 3 projects that the Water Control District incorporated in its budget at their meeting last week. That budget was acted on after we had already prepared this, and we didn't have enough time to get it in this schedule. But it will be; those projects will be included for second reading of the ordinance. And with that, if there are any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.
Any questions for Jim? No?
Jim, should we include the B Road Ocean project?
I think we can do that. Now, as I mentioned, we're going to be looking at the text amendments, and those probably won't be finalized in the process until maybe the end of September, early October. And my thinking is that by that time, we will have worked out the agreements with the 3 parties, and we can include them in the schedule at that point. We don't have any idea of the actual timing and the costs at this point, but we very likely will at that point. I've been talking to the 3 parties, and it sounds like they're very close to reaching an agreement and getting ready to bring their PUDs back through the process. And at that point, we should have a much better idea as to the cost and the timing, and we can include them in the schedule of improvements at that time.
Yeah, I wouldn't have them now because technically it's a proposed project, with no development order or anything timing the improvements, so that you could say it's a done deal, if you will. We were thinking it would be August 6th when they would come back to PUD, but as Jim indicated, they're still working among themselves to work out their internal agreements as it relates to their proportional share for the roadways. So, we're kind of at their schedule now. Maybe September, we thought we would be getting it done at next meeting, but that didn't fail sometime. And that'll end up being like a 5-party agreement that you'll have 3 entities, Palm Beach State, Box Center, and Box Grove Commons, plus the water control district and the town police. So we're going to have that one.
Yeah, and there's a requirement that we update the schedule once per year, but there is no limit as to how often we can amend it. So I think we can include those projects in the time that's
Okay. Any other questions, Councilman Rob?
Jim, the 2 FDOT projects, is that how much the state has estimated Southern Boulevard will cost? $119,000 for one thing, and then $39,700,000 for bringing Southern through.
Yeah, the 2 projects listed for DOT. The first one is the purchase of the pond sites. That's how much money they allocated for that. Now, keep in mind though that that's purchase of the pond sites all the way from Wine Country Safari to the hospital. So that's not just expenditures within the corporate limits.
So basically, we get credit as a town for their project. In other words, their project's not going to cost us anything.
That's true.
As far as capital improvements, we get credit.
Yeah, that's right. We're supposed to include any road projects that are included in the Metropolitan Planning Organization's 5-year capital plan. And these projects are all included in that, so we just took them out. We're not responsible for any funding.
The other thing was number 5. We've estimated $214,000 for the Medical Plaza project. In other words, from Southern to Collecting Canal. Is that what we're estimating?
Yeah, that was an estimate that I put together, and I since have talked to Steve Yoli, and they have funds on deposit of $106,000. That's how much it's actually going to cost us. So I'm going to change that prior to second reading to read $106,000 rather than $214,000.
All right, it may be 106. I was thinking they had gone up to 136,000 for this. That was 25% over the 106,000.
That's right.
If I'm correct.
Yeah.
Now, what I mentioned it to Steve, but I'm going to talk to him a little bit more about it. Is nobody has been able to tell me what kind of design they have from Southern to Citrus or to the end of the plaza. I would expect it to be 2 lanes going east, 1 lane going west. The same 2 lanes going east, one of them would be going straight across into Wellington. Now, everybody's seen, the ones I talked to so far, they seem to be, it's just going to be Ojum. And, in other words, that is going to be state standards, I would think, that area right there, right? 'Cause that's going to set an example, just like us trying to get a red light at D Road and Southern Boulevard. In other words, I expect that plaza, and I've got their copy of their contract with the district. Their contract says that what we require is what they'll do, what the district requires is what they'll do, and whatever the cost is, they're obligated to pay for it. Now, that we've given them an estimate of $136,000, but I think it might cost more, okay, if they put it in right. And that's one thing we as a town, as water control district, we need to make sure that it goes in under county or state standards, not Ojum road standards throughout Waxahachie. So I just want to bring that to the attention of the council. With an interlocal governmental committee and stuff, that's something we need to know, and they're moving along that project. So we don't want no cheapest thing we can get that we want an understanders, just like I expect us to do with D Road going into Southern.
Yeah, well, I'll see if I can bring some details back for you, with the agenda for the second reading.
All right, who else? Jim?
The ordinance that we have, it precedes in our package the related budget discussions about things you don't have in the ordinance, which have sequence or in terms of year, maybe they should be moved up, and we have a lot of things that we couldn't make a motion on in a workshop. Although we certainly, I think, made it pretty clear about some of the changes we wanted to incorporate. Now, those are in the package of information that follows. Should we not have that ironed out as to what we're going to do with those items first before you actually adopt the ordinance with those items listed by year?
Well, I think as long as we have all of the projects in the schedule, I think that we have time to work out when those projects are going to actually occur or be programmed between first and second reading. I think we can make some of those changes.
Well, I mean, my point is, I think we've got in our package a bunch of items that we talked about to say, let's make these changes to what we were presenting. What was presented is what we have in the ordinance.
Yes.
I mean, one item is removal of something. That's in the ordinance. We don't need it. If the council so desires, and then the discussions with, I think they probably want to do that. So it seems to me that before we adopt the ordinance, and we have a laundry list of things that we know today that we wanted to change, we should put those to discussion, figure out what we want to change, incorporate that tonight in the ordinance, and in between first and second reading, we may have other things. So I hate to have a list of known changes, potentially known changes, that we're going to put off to the second reading between first and second. Just get them done now. That's my thinking, and some of them move things up in terms of funding timeframes, and the others we move like specifically $50,000 for the alternative. So it seems like we can do both. The order seems a little out of whack. If we're going to, I know you make changes, but why know you're going to changes to make and ignore them?
Well, certainly, I mean, if there are specific changes that you want to make tonight, I don't have a problem with that.
That'll be incorporated for second reading. We plan to bring this back on August 6th. There's a 10-day advertising.
I like to get things done that we know we have a problem with today, and things that we don't know yet, we can look at in the future. But we already have a list that you put together for us, which was from our last meeting, that said we want these changes. At least these changes were listed from the input of the council. Whether the whole council agrees or not, that's up to us tonight to do that. But I can't see putting the ordinance first with the things that we want to change in the next item on the agenda, and then I would include that list in the discussion of the ordinance, make the changes now if the council wants to do that, and then you'll have at least an up-to-date list as of tonight of what we think we want to have in the capital element. That's my first question.
Okay,
If I may have a second question.
you may. Go ahead.
All right. If we can do this, we can follow this strategy to solve the problem that we've been having with spending gas tax money. I guess I have to pat Jim on the back for coming up with the idea. I presume that's what I'm hearing. Why can't we now either make the ordinance retroactive to the first of this year and include this fiscal year, which would then cover the 28-something thousand that we were supposedly paying this year, and then next year we can include that by the way the ordinance is structured. It would be included anyway, since we can update it as many times in a given year. That's another little wrinkle or problem that we seem to be facing. We can't identify the 28.9 this year, in this fiscal year, coming out of gas tax money because of all the restrictions we have. But we can do it this way, to make it effective with this fiscal year too. Include that element, in the element that is part of capital, using the 5-cent gas tax. And besides, I think personally, when I read the ordinance, I can do it. Secondly, if we're giving money to the Water Control District to spend on their road as a capital improvement, I think we've met the other criteria, which is spending a 5-cent gas tax money. So to me, there's many, many reasons why we should just, if this is the way we want to make it official and get it done, and everybody's happy with this mechanism, then include this year's 29,000, as well as next year's. And then also have the discussion and move in the items that we all commented on last workshop.
My recommendation would not to be to do that. That's not, the 28,000 does not represent a capital improvement. It may represent a subsidy, payment, whatever you want to call it. But I think that could open up a can of worms if the state, usually the state doesn't look at it, but, I mean, that's not a project. So I would not recommend that.
Okay. Tom?
I agree with Jim's first comment, it makes more sense, I would think. And I certainly think there's a lot of mishmash going on here that I'd like to be voting on what it is. There's way too many columns and everything for me to trust in somebody's going to do it. I want to see what we're voting on here. So,
Remind everybody speaking to the microphone.
oh, I'm sorry, if we can do that, I mean, if we can do that by delaying this till later tonight, then I think that's what we ought to do, because, you know, there's at least one thing on here that I'm not in favor of continuing to do. So we want to put it on there and take it off later.
Okay, I would think that we could have the items included now in the discussion of the ordinance. We're going to improve the ordinance as is, we're going to improve the ordinance with changes. Let's use that other information. I think, Tom.
Well, we're going to be voting on 8 different things, so I can do that. Then do it now and then do it then.
Yeah,
Say,
that's-
well,
We'll do it now and then we put that in motion.
That's what I mean.
because otherwise we're going to vote on 3 of them now and 4 of them later.
Vote them all now, but part of the ordinance,
However you all want to.
final ordinance. Put it in there. And I don't understand Mark's comment about 28,000. Can you do it for next year? And again, do it for this year. Is that what my understanding is?
No, what I said was the 28,000 does not represent a capital improvement. It may represent a gift, a subsidy, a grant, whatever you want to call it. It's not a capital improvement.
I don't call it capital improvement. I don't call it a gift or a grant. I call it giving money that we received for capital improvement to roads to the Water Control District to spend on their road as a capital improvement, which happens to subsidize the rest of the payment. That to me fits perfectly. If we gave them the whole 5-cent gas tax money last year, at the beginning of this year, and said, here, throw this into the pot to help pay for these OJM roads, I thought that was even one of the things that management recommended, and we backed off of that. So if it was good then, it seemed good now, but I don't know. It sounds like we can do it for next year, and I'm seizing on what seems to be a good idea, and we do it for this year, and we make this ordinance include that also.
Councilman, you guys can always do what you want. I'm just telling you, if I were a betting man, I'd love to bet you.
Are we including that in this capital improvement for next year?
Those roads would be our roads, will they not? Are we talking about the same thing? Are we talking about the grant was to pay the district for the roads that were OJM, which are districts going to give whatever rights they have to us by the end of this fiscal year, so they're going to be our roads at that point.
I think this was
We have
to
a payment this
subsidize,
year, right?
yeah, subsidize the payment.
This is a payment this year,
They're already
I
done.
believe, and then there's a payment next
So
fiscal
you
year.
budget for that, right?
Right. So it's the same thing, paid now and then paid next year, and if the council approves it each year thereafter, et cetera.
All right, so is there,
I would think the question really lies in whether or not debt service payments on capital improvements are to be considered acceptable, because that is in fact what it is. It's subsidizing the district's debt service. And so if you can pay debt service out of, if you can pay capital improvements with the debt service, then it would seem to me that I would agree with you that it's something that can be done. But if Mark and these gentlemen say that it can be, you know, lots of them seem very logical to me, yeah, not allowed, so.
Right.
That would not be a shock.
So what is your thought on the, what's the council's,
On number one, I'd like to vote on what we're voting.
okay,
I'd like to decide, this is the budget of the items and what year, and say that's what it is. We go forward, because I think there's some things on here, like 2013, 14, I don't really think we're gonna spend $944,000 on whatever item number 2 is.
all right. So do we want to make those changes with the consensus of the board before we make a motion?
I would think that would be more sensible, and I think that's what
All
Jim's
right.
saying.
So let's take them one at a time. What are our thoughts on the 28.9, taking it off twice under the 5 cent?
I don't think it's on here at all.
It's not on.
It's on the, it's in the list.
Item number 6, I think, on the next
On
page.
the items we're talking about, the items that were discussed last council meeting, and said let's talk about them, we couldn't make a motion, so. It's item number 6 on page 53, 54, or back.
The key comes down to, does this belong under the capital improvements? Correct?
It's one of the items
I
on.
think we should first start off with that on this page,
Okay.
before we start picking out all the.
And that's fine, that's
So there's
fine.
plenty of things that aren't on here that we
Okay.
can start to add, so.
All right, Tom? Start off.
We got the first one, which is the non-district town road survey. Is that something that we're doing on the town roads, and I guess they can describe what the plan is for that. And I think that would be the best format, to just,
Okay.
I'm not either a chair, but if
That's
they would
fine.
tell us what each of these items they anticipated being and how they got the number, then we can say yay, nay, or change it.
All right, you want to go down through there and take them one at a time?
$100,000 that's earmarked for the non-district town road surveys is based upon any project that we do to a non-district road that we obviously believe there ought to be a survey in place before we undertake those improvements. $100,000 is an estimate based upon what we know you've talked about in the past, but it's a very moving number.
Okay, so this would be an example, maybe if there was a Bryan Road being done, you would be surveying that out,
That's a possibility.
or be a collecting canal, you would be doing that.
I think on collecting canal, any kind of.
We're talking about more than grading or hedging.
Yes, and any survey work that would be necessary relative to any earmarked project, like collecting canals is a good one as an example, that survey work would come out of that project, as opposed to the general project.
So the survey for collecting canal would not be included in this, but on other projects, you're saying that's what you.
Right, that would pop up.
All right, everybody all right with that? Moving on to the next one. That's pretty self-explanatory, I think.
Well, that was 1A, is that, it seemed like we had 1B to consider.
Yeah, which page is, I'm looking at page 49 to 175, are you looking at a different one, the other 8 questions, Jim? Or-
I was looking at, when I said page 54 had a list of 6 items. That seemed to be what we had brought up.
Okay, all right.
And we just,
Well, see, that's what I'm talking about.
okay.
Look at this, it's got one set of things. Look at this, it's in a different order and it's different things. So what are we voting on? First, we're voting, I think we should say what's here. And then if any of these things aren't here and we want them to be, let's put them there. But I think several of them are there under the name of town road OSHA projects. You know, whether it be
Is this under the
Road G,
ordinance?
or Road H, or Road Z, those can be town road projects that we make up in the future.
What page would that be on our package?
I think we're 49.
49, but that's what I'm looking on 49. That's what seems to me to be the 4 items, the first 4 items that we're going to pay for that are on this here. And they come to pretty good penny, like close to $1.5 million.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4.
So we said it's okay with the 200,000 for Tran 1. Tran 2 is basically the collecting canal,
$943,000.
everything end to end, but you don't, from what I understand, the 944 is like not necessarily, it's certainly not a bid number. And it's not the subject of an, it's not currently the subject of an engineer's estimate or
No.
anything like that?
None of these are.
Okay. So we good with leaving that? See, because that's the thing, you go to this one that Jim's talking about on 54, it's got a lot of things that they would like us to actually vote on. So maybe we want to switch and say, let's vote on these items. So if there's anything we want to do here that's not there, we move it. I don't know.
Mayor, if you want, you could defer this item and dispose of the next item and then come back to it. Or continue about it,
All right, if that will help, I mean, you tell me. Seems like we're spinning our wheels in this one, we keep wanting to go to the
It
next.
sounds like in the dialogue that you might want to take care of the next item first and go over each one of
Okay.
those assumptions and then come back and finish up this.
We can do this table based on what's there, bless it or change it, then go to the other section and see if we've included everything already from the other section, if there's anything we haven't talked about yet.
But then if
And
we
then
have
we'll
it
be
back,
back.
it would be for a second reading when we do it. There's no
We're talking about, as part of the review of the ordinance and part of the motion of the ordinance and approval tonight, we include discussion of what's in the ordinance, timeline, amounts, changes we will make to those, and anything that's in the next list that we're waiting to discuss, that we brought up at the workshop, relative to this very thing. It's not like we didn't talk about it already, and we can include those items with the ordinance, then we're done with the ordinance. Done with that, and we're done with the other 6 items.
I'm okay as long as we vote on each of these items.
Okay, let's go ahead and go to 8A first. And then we're going to know what we're going to put in our motion on 7A. So we're just going to hold off on 7A right now, go to 8A and find out if any of these things we're going to put on in the 7A.
Yeah.
Okay, or 8A.
8A is a agenda item that town management company thought would be good based upon the discussion last time and to assist us in putting together the budget for the rest of this year. If we address these things and make sure council, we get a voice vote, a motion on all these items. And what Bill did is, in this memo, he put together, based upon our understanding and from the last meeting, those issues that we're talking about. So what we thought is we could go through them one by one, and you can either indicate your support, non-support, whatever, and then that would assist us in wrapping up at least getting the budget ready for the future public hearings. And so with that, the first one was the Ojum of D Road from Southern Boulevard to Collecting Canal. And as you can see, we made a determination that it's 0.41 miles. Bill costed the Ojum out at $100,000. Again, it's an estimate. And then there's a B part to that, create a 2-lane road with paving and guardrails at an approximate cost of $500,000, which I believe was recommended by Bill Lau at the last meeting.
Okay.
I would think that if we did everything on D Road between Collecting Canal and Southern, it's already two lanes. When I drive down that section, it's 2 lanes. I don't know that I would make a 1-lane road and leave part of it uncovered. So my assumption is if we do that section without anything other than Ojum, it would be a 2-lane road.
Well, even Ocean, we don't have to.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't know if 100,000 is based on that whole width, but I'm not in a position that I think we want to add guardrails to it, even though I respect Bill's idea. We're trying to do something, I think, to suggest to the state, hey, I've got a blacktop road that you put a light next to it. And at the intersection, there is enough of a barrier, I think. So I would just say, whatever the number should be, if it's 100,000, again, this is an estimate. If it becomes bigger, we change it. So 100,000 in the current, next fiscal year is fine with me.
The important thing is the policy question.
Okay. Tom?
Well,
Ron
Ron
was
was first, so.
Okay, Ron.
The deal with our Ojum Road, A Road, C Road, D Road, they're considered 2 lanes, okay? The difference on this between Collecting Canal and Southern, it's going to be the same type road, 2 lanes, but we're going to have to put it's going to have to be wide enough for the markings down the middle so it looks like 2 lanes. That's what the state's looking for. They're not looking for a 1-lane road where a car doesn't have to stay on one side and on the other side. But their main concern is where it meets with Southern Boulevard. When it comes up to Southern Boulevard, it can't just be one road, Ojum, up to Southern Boulevard. You're gonna have to have 2 lanes heading west and 1 lane heading east. You're gonna have the arrow marks to designate stuff like that. That's what the state is looking for, so that's what I'm saying. You know, we're gonna have to pay for that stuff. It's gonna cost a little bit more than just a plain black road coming into Southern Boulevard.
As I understand it, right now, we're requiring the 3 developers to put in a state standard road coming off of Southern Boulevard. And that's actually what I thought was supposed to be done over at F Road as well, up to Citrus, and then it was supposed to be open to Collecting Canal Run. I don't know if that's, I think that's what I was recalling.
And I don't remember that, but,
I am suggesting with this one, sort of split the difference, where it ties into the second here, because if we're gonna address the issue that's going on up here on Southern Boulevard, I agree with Ron, it needs to be the road done right, where it has the turning lanes and everything. If you're gonna get a traffic light, you're probably gonna, you're gonna have at least 1 eastbound lane dedicated to that. It would seem to me it might be a good idea to do the paved road up to the bridge and maybe a little bit beyond, and then bring it down into Ojum to take it to Collecting Canal. And then we're gonna have on this side of the bridge, hopefully, Ojum, so that the plaza can flow in a circle, because there's gonna be no left-hand turns out of the plaza either. So anyone who pulls into the plaza is gonna be stuck in the same thing, whether it happens to turn and go west. And swing all around, end up on B Road or farther out. So if they can go instead out the back of the plaza through a way that will have to work out with them, to that little road back across the bridge and out through the light, I think that will solve a lot of the problems, and maybe we could get away without $500,000, maybe just doing half the distance in full pavement, carry it over the rest. So I think, you're gonna get a lot of your traffic is gonna stay right here in that scenario.
all right, so what are your thoughts? Yeah, everybody all right, consensus with that? Bill?
Just a point of clarification, and I would like to get a firm grasp, and that is we will pave, typical paving to the bridge from Southern, north to the bridge. I would get them from there to Collecting Canal
That's what I'm suggesting.
with appropriate guardrails if necessary. And that
When we
is,
say appropriate guardrails, I don't think we were talking about.
No, not guardrails.
No, between here and the bridge, you have a lot more room,
okay.
and maybe the guardrails would be necessary.
And so that would be, I guess, one of the council members' motion to move in that direction, and then we can get that settled.
Sure. I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion to do, for number 1 here, to do the D Road, regular paving up to and past the bridge, and then from the bridge to Collecting Canal in Ojum.
Okay, so second.
Second.
Second by Ron, discussion by council. Any
Any
further?
price that we want to put in on that?
What's that?
Cost, do we need 100,000?
Maybe 300, split the 5.
Split the 5 to 300. The only concern I've got
Budget
is,
numbers.
yeah, the only concern I've got at all is we're now dealing with 2 different contractors and the coordination and everything else. So it's going to be two steps, because the Ojum, we're kind of waiting for an Ojum guy to come in. And I just wonder myself, if we got it all done by one guy in DOT Blacktop, how much more it's going to be, because we're just talking about from there on. So I would kind of like to get the price. I agree with Tom. I want to save as much money as we can. And if we're going to do it to the bridge, it's very important we do it Blacktop to the bridge. I think you meant one west lane, one right lane, or one east, one west, and then the turning, correct? Because we don't need 2 lanes going west. But anyway, whatever, we're going to get designs on it, but,
And even though it's a non-district road, that would be a case, like Councilman Wilson was asking you earlier, we probably would have a survey on that, make sure.
yeah.
To make sure.
That'd be part of the money,
All right, so
Well, why don't you make it 250,000 and then?
it's a budget number, but when it comes to constructing it, I think there's some questions we can answer then, that maybe we can save a little money or not spend any more. So, if the Ojum's going to be done with Collecting Canal, that makes sense to do it all. So anyway, all right, any other council member comments? We got one, Ken Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. My only question
version of what's gonna happen on D Road, but what happens to Tangerine right here? Will that be cut off, or will that still be in a legitimate intersection? That's my only question.
Stays a legitimate intersection because there's going to be
Okay.
crossing over the bridge to
Yeah.
get in and out of the back of the plaza.
Okay,
And then-
all right. Yeah, nothing's really gonna change, okay.
Well, I guess the only thing I do to amend the motion is that the district will agree to this and whatever we need to do to get the propriety, but we're not, spending our money on district roads and all that.
What I'm understanding from you is, as you all are doing these projects, we're going to need to initiate conversations with the district to follow the same process we did for the letter road. So anytime you guys have identified, anytime you guys identify a project and you're moving forward on it at the appropriate time, we'll engage conversations either at Mark's level or my level on the process for those roads and get that as part of that project.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Excuse me, this is only, to clarify, this is the only motion for collecting canal to southern D Road.
Right, that's what the motion is.
We still get a new 1C.
What's that?
I put it as C.
It's gonna be a C.
Yes,
D.
one C.
What's that?
Instead of A, it's made into C.
Okay. All right. All of a sudden, that must be a C road.
No, not yet.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Moving on to, is it Tangerine from D to back to Plaza, separate item?
It is, we were trying to make sure that we covered that intersection as
We
well.
discussed that, I think we ought to do that as well.
Mr. Mayor, I'm thinking that could come under our miscellaneous bucket of other roadway activity, because we've got to talk to some folks that live on that road before we drive around traffic through the front yard. And it's not well-used road. I wouldn't want to have traffic up, and I don't know that the access out of the shopping center is legal access at this point. I mean,
No, it's not.
So we have other things that have to do to connect up to it, and I would think if that amount, if that's a true amount, which it sounds like it would be, that would be something we put on the miscellaneous, but I would definitely want the folks that live on that road to be saying, that's fine with me, before we put that road through the front of there.
Mr. Mayor, the only road I'm referring to is basically over, and I don't know exactly where it would come out, but it would come out, right now, there's a little opening in the back of the past British Egg. Goes out and around. That's the farthest west I would consider the road going. Not talking about connecting any roads.
Okay. So we need a motion to look into that, but it is our desire to open that.
Well, I think the
I'll
issue,
make a motion that we include that in this budget.
Okay.
You know what?
In this particular thing, I'd make a motion we vote in favor of that.
Okay. All right, Ron,
Aye.
a second?
No. I disagree for the simple fact that to allow the people there's a research that's gonna have to be done, we're gonna check with the residents. We can make that road happen, and it can be shell rock just like Tangerine across the street. I'm looking for the developers, when we start opening Tangerine Boulevard, I expect the commercial developers to pay for that. Now, even though we estimated 20,000, that shouldn't be our cost, that should be the developers paying, and all the developers, the ones we've been talking to now, they realize that we want Tangerine to go from one end to the other end. And when they want to develop on the south side of Tangerine, the developers have to pay to improve that street and give the residents what they want, good drainage and a better street. So I personally think we need to leave it alone. If we get to the point where we have to give access, because you're talking 3, 4, 5 years down the road before this major thoroughfare happens, I believe. When we get to that point, if the plaza needs access from their plaza to safely get out of there, to make access on Southern Boulevard, if we get the light, then that's when we'll solve the problem. And we'll do it with a DOT road material, just like the rest of the response action. And we'll wait on the developers to pay for the pavement.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second to Tom's motion? Okay, for no second, it dies from lack of a second, and it comes off. Number 3, eliminating the town hall alternate fund,
Mr.
$50,000.
Mayor, I make the motion to eliminate the alternative $50,000.
Okay, there's a second. Second by Ryan. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. All right, moving to 4, Trails and Development of Linear Park. Okay, Ryan makes a motion to accept that. Second by Tom. Further discussion?
And this is where we're putting 80,000 into this coming year, 100,000 into next year, 100,000 the year after, which fixes at least part of the problem we had, which was there was nothing in 2014.
Right.
That's exactly what
That's what we talked about.
Okay, now the only question I've got, are we going to be able to use these funds to improve what's already been established? Because some of the horse trails we've got have got gates, have got all kinds of stuff, some problems that need to be sorted out. Probably won't cost a lot, but, you know, so that they're usable. You know, I hear people say, you got trails, but you can't use them, so.
This is not included in the motion that might be directed to work with the district on getting that opened up.
Okay.
But this is not, are we talking about trails between A and Folsom? Or are we talking about trails?
Trails in general.
I think A and Folsom is the first one,
Okay.
is the first year.
So this budget is for between April.
Just the 80, I think, is for that.
Okay.
Is that how you wrote it? Just the 80 was for that? Yeah.
All right,
Yeah,
all right.
so that's the first phase, and then we'll have a second phase.
Okay, so that's a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign, passes 5-0.
And maybe I need to make a motion for the 100 in each of the following 2 years to be put under trails and linear park, or just trails in general. So we don't have it specific to a part of town, which I think is what we were saying.
Yeah, the other two, yeah.
So we put the other two under in the plan as another line item, is called, can we call it trails? Or do we have trails? For now.
Trails part, but we had possibilities for maybe longer.
All right, so that would be each 100,000 and
In each of those years.
15 to 100,000 to 16. I make that motion.
Okay. Your second? Second by Tom. Yes, Bill?
Mayor, just a little clarification. The 80,000 was for the A Road, Folsom.
Right.
The other, if you look at the agenda item, it specifically refers to trails and linear park. They're combined.
Right.
And so we have the other 200 in there for items not A Road.
Right.
So it could be one item.
It'll be for future budgets and stuff.
Well, it come in the following year.
Okay,
We have to decide what to spend it
right.
Right. You would decide.
Okay. So we have a motion, we have a second.
But I don't understand what you just said. I was okay until you spoke.
There's
One
one
line
item.
item is one line item, has 80, 100, 100.
Right.
It's for both trails and linear park,
Correct.
but
The
not
80 we already
between
passed.
A and Folsom.
No, the first year is A and Folsom.
Well,
That's
we
already
need a
passed.
separate line for A and Folsom, and the second line would be for the 100 and 100. Because then it's not defined as A and Folsom. I can't have the same description that's all, just add another line. You guys have got a lot of lines. Add another one.
Add another one.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah, the 80,000 is already approved.
That's fine.
We made a motion second, passed that. So now we're talking about the next 2 years at 100,000 each. That's Jim's motion.
We seconded it.
Tom seconded. Further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Any opposed, same sign, passes 5-0. Moving to mast arm wire signalization,
Mayor,
D in Okeechobee.
This one, because I know that the council was concerned whether it's going to be a mast arm or a wire signalization, and we weren't really sure, and so the question was, regardless, does the council want to appropriate for the D Road in Okeechobee $250,000 in 2014, next year, to put something at the intersection of D Road and Okeechobee? We got conflicting responses.
That's correct. I think we want to put in 2014, 250,000 signal at D Road in Okeechobee.
Okay,
I
you
make
make
a
a
motion
motion.
to that effect.
Jim makes a motion, is there a second? Second. Second by Ryan. Discussion. Ron?
Question is, okay, what if we start doing things, we've got an engineer coming on board, and we're gonna want estimated cost on what it's going to cost now. That's going to cost us this year, so have we already got the funds for that set aside? Or see, that 250 should cover the end of this year and 2014.
250 is already allocated in this year's CIP, so we could get a start on that, on the project this year. And we, tonight we'll be hopefully approving the contract of the traffic engineering firm, which will be doing the design of the signal. So, you know, it just depends on how fast you want us to go once you make a decision.
Now, clarification. So we've already got 250,000 for this year. Is this an additional 250,000 for 2014?
It would not be, technically, at the end of the fiscal year, if funds aren't being used, they go into the bottom of the bucket to be reused in the next year.
Okay, any other discussion? I still don't think we need it this year. I still hope we can work with the county and get them to pay for it. I sure don't want a mask on. You know, there's no need at all for that. And, you know, I'm just afraid there's going to be some other consequences regarding turn lanes and everything else by putting the light there. And I know the county's going to end up doing something, maybe with Okeechobee. You know, that light was needed 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Now, I mean, it's really not necessary.
That's a great point, Your Honor. I guess the question I would have for you is when I take, you know, if you approve this item and I take this forward to the county and I try to see about getting a wire signal and they tell me no mask on, could I have some direction as to, do you want me to bring it back at that point? Or do you want, you know, how do you want me to address that? Because we can ask for it, but I don't know if we're going to get it.
Well, what are your thoughts?
I think we get our engineer to give us, maybe we take that forward. I mean, obviously, they're gonna, I mean, if I'm sitting there in county, and somebody's coming to me and saying, I want to put a light in on this road, and we're gonna come forward with, we will fund it, but we're gonna come back and ask the county to pay for it, then they're gonna ask for definitely the Cadillac or the Mercedes, and then if that's what it is. But if we present the situation, say, that's what we have today, on either end of our community, and et cetera, 2-lane road, so on and so forth, then I think we push back, and we push back with, you know, some force. I disagree with the mayor. I think we need it today. I needed it 5 years ago, and I still needed it. Every day I go to cross D Road. I need it. I mean, that and Prayer Brook next to me, because that's what you need. So any of the roads you come out, and we got a little bit of an approval by the county to say, use all the road traffic, that's great, because then maybe they'll qualify. But boy, I'd like more lights on Okeechobee, not just one, but let's start with D.
Okay, Tom?
I would just have to say that I'm opposed to spending town money on the county road. They really should be doing it. If it is really the needs that we refer to, I don't know why we don't get any respect from the county and are treated the way we are. So I don't think we should waste what little money we have. We should use it within town's boundaries and let them do it. I don't cross D Road, but I cross B Road. So I think we're going to be A all the way through without having, I don't think that's, unfortunately, what we need to do.
Okay, Ron?
Maybe we should slow down. Maybe we should just make it 30 miles an hour on Okeechobee and slow the traffic down and pay for the traffic enforcement and make it easy for Jim to get across. I think that would be better than wasting literally hundreds of thousands of dollars that we could spend. I mean, you went on Ocean Road, and just made Ocean 2 miles for that one traffic light, and they're going to tear it down.
And believe it, we talked to them about dropping the speed limit, and they said that was next to impossible. So anyway, Ron?
We all agree D Road is the main street of Loxahatchee Road, so we're going to use that to try and get a light up here at Southern. Okay, we don't need a red light at every road in Loxahatchee. We need stoppage in the center of Loxahatchee and give people a chance to get out on Okeechobee Boulevard. We've said before, and Tom, there's nothing wrong with this feeling. I agree with him. We should not have to pay for this light. But the county commissioner said, if we want a light, then we have to make some effort, okay? When we start we haven't put no money into it yet. I've always said when we start putting money in it, whether it's 20, 30,000, when the engineer comes on board, I had breakfast with the commissioner the other morning. I mentioned to him about the light. Same thing. When you put money into it, Ron, you bring it to the county commission and ask for your money back. Now, I don't plan on spending $250,000 before I go to county commission. Okay, Okay, we do the plans and stuff with the engineers, and I still find it hard to believe that the county does not have plans for that intersection. Now, sooner or later, I'll find the right person that works for the county that can tell me that they've got plans or they don't have plans. So it bothers me with engineers coming on board that we gotta set any money aside to have plans drawn up, or have an engineer tell us what we need. As far as the wires, you know, it doesn't bother me tonight to say that we do not want masked arms. We don't need to keep repeating, well, I don't like it, it's a Cadillac, or whatever. We decide tonight that we want cable, red lights, okay, and if the county wants masked arms, or they require it, then they can pay the difference and give us the Cadillac. Now, that's just back to common sense. So why don't we eliminate that, just like we eliminated one time, we were saying we were gonna spend $1.5 million for a red light at Okeechobee and D Road. And people go berserk when you start telling them you're gonna spend that much money on a county road. So why don't we take care of the Cadillac thing right now and just make it known that we as a town, the red light that we're gonna put up is gonna be wired, cable. And that's the way it is. They put a red light in at Huercas and Forest Hill Boulevard. The county probably would have paid for that red light for Wellington, but they had one handicap. The traffic study did not qualify them. Okay, we've got one thing in our favor with Okeechobee Boulevard. The traffic study qualified us for a red light. After years, they finally qualified us when they could have done it the first time we approached them. So that's how I stand on that. We need to make an effort. We need to put some money into it, and then we'll go to the county. Jess says he'll supply the buses. All we have to do is supply the people. Now, we can't supply the people to go to the county commission and ask them to do what is right for the town of Waxahachie Groves. Then we need to pay for it.
Okay. That light they're putting in the diner, is it not a cable light? They're putting on Olson or on Crestwood?
I believe so.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's interesting they want us to do the next number. So, the motion is we put a cable traffic light in.
Traffic light at D Road next year, $250,000. We don't expect to spend it.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-2. All right, moving on to 6. Just something we need to put in, and I guess it's got a budget number. Bill?
Well, this was the number that has come up in discussion, and I guess the question is, the city attorney, town attorney has stated that these roads are going to come to the town, in which case I would consider $28,934 the cost of acquisition of the roads that are owed, which could be a capital expense.
And my point was do it for this year as well as next year.
That is going to be fully dependent on the attorney being successful.
And getting those titles before the end of the fiscal year, which I'm working on.
So, like I think I talked about at the workshop, we have an assumption in our budget, and the assumption is we will have title, and we can classify the $28,934 this year, in the current fiscal year, as a capital improvement, and next year's budget will be the same.
We've already remitted the first payment.
That doesn't mean you can't reclassify.
Well, we will, assuming all pieces come into play.
Okay.
But my,
Yeah, I would be satisfied with what Bill said right there, because we can always do a budget change for this year that would reclassify it if it comes to pass.
okay.
So what Jim would like to do is not dead, and I think we can cross that bridge, and just that bridge.
All right.
Why I brought it up now, because we seem to have an answer to the problem of spending gas tax money indicated in this ordinance. And we've also been told we can do an ordinance change as many times as we want. At least we do it once a year, or a budget change. And all I said was, we have an answer to the problem. Let's include 2013 fiscal year in this list, and that would be the item, and we make the same assumption that the roads would be transferred to us by the end of this fiscal year. Now, the fact that we made the payment already, and this council member specifically asked, before we make the payment, please let the council have a discussion about this item, which we have not had until now, but we made the payment anyway, which is not something I'm really very happy about. But If we have a mechanism to identify this in this fiscal year as part of this ordinance, and the assumption is we have the roads, then put it in this ordinance as this fiscal year, and just include it in the 5 years. Make it through 5 years out from this year rather than 5 years after next. I mean, you get an answer to the problem we've been struggling with, which I think is great. Let's use it under the same assumption. And we'll put the burden and monkey on Mike's back to get, which he's been assured will happen. I have to go with that. We're trying to get this resolved, and I think that's what we want the capital money to be spent on the roads, improving capital.
And I have no issue, the problem or conjunction is that we're going to have to do a budget amendment to accomplish that. 13 is, for all practical purposes, that's how we're going to get it done, through a budget amendment and a transfer. So it wouldn't go into the capital, because we're looking at 14 forward. Just wanted to make sure that everybody should understand 13 is a budget amendment, we can do that. This is 14 for the next 5 years.
All right.
And so I would presume that the motion would be 28,934 each year for the next 5 years in the capital improvement fund.
But my point is, this is new to us as a way to get us to pay out of the capital 5 cents money against Ogden roads, if you will. This is a new way, a new item, just came up. So even we have an ordinance in front of us that can incorporate this for next year. We also have no limit on how many times we can put a change in, as long as we do it at least annually from this point forward. So why can't this ordinance address this year and the next 4 years?
Well, we really don't have a need for that.
Well, I have a need. You might not, but I do. I want this 29,000 put against capital. Let's make a budget amendment, which is also on our
I
agenda.
understand the
You've got
capital.
an agenda item tonight to make it part of the general fund, to increase it. You've included that in the budget amendment now, which we ought to talk about putting off anyway, and then just include this then. But I don't want to cut up the option, and you have to tell me whether we are, of putting this 28.9 in this current fiscal year as a capital payment out of our 5 cent gas tax. If this, that we've already paid, if we can't reclassify it, if we go forward from this point without including it in something like this, does that close the door on it?
Can you answer that, Bill? Will?
The 28,000 that we've already spent is through a budget amendment this year. It can go into the 5 cent gas tax, presuming all the pieces fall into play. This is for 2014 forward. We're not backing up 2013. This is a capital project next year. Budget amendment for this year, the can for 28, capital project for next year in the CIP.
So later this year, assuming the items that we've assumed happen, we can then reclassify the 28.9 out of capital, in the budget amendment, and it'll be spent out of 5 cent gas tax.
Absolutely.
That's fine.
But this is to
I understand.
Okay.
But in theory, we could have come up with a 5-year plan yesterday, current 13, through 5 years. We could have done that. We just found out about this, and it happened to be budget time, we're looking ahead, and not including current fiscal. That's what I'm trying to understand. That's fine. Your answer is fine. I accept it.
Okay. Any other comments?
So if I could have clarification on this, so the motion is, I understand, it 28,934 for the next 5 years, starting in 2014.
If Jim is going to make that motion.
Yes, I'll make said motion, that understanding each year, we will approve every capital expenditure as the year comes up. We put it in the plan, it doesn't mean it's spent, it's budgeted money, and so is the intent. We get to the point we can't do it, we can't do it.
That's correct.
Okay, there's a second to that. Second by Ron. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving to,
I think that's it for what we have to do relative to the ordinance.
I think it is. The next piece is relative to the next agenda items. But I think if you would instruct that we incorporate what you've done here into that CIP, given the attorney's review, that would take a capital improvement on it, fix the problem with the 5-cent gas tax, and move everything forward.
Okay, so I make a motion that what we just had, the last 4 or 5 motions relative to CIP, be incorporated into the ordinance 3013-04
Yes.
as the first reading change.
Yes.
So,
Okay, second by Tom. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, because we've taken them out of order, let's go ahead and finish 8A, and then we'll go back to 7A. Is that all right with everybody?
So that motion,
I thought that was.
That was the 7A motion.
That took care of 7A items.
That took care of all of 7A?
I think so.
yeah, I took that to mean passing the ordinance.
That's great.
With that.
I thought we had to still go back to 7A. My mistake.
I
Then
understood that.
moving on through 8A.
thank you, Bill, for your help on that.
Why don't we finish 8A and then we'll take a break? All right, we only got the, all right, we're looking at, what, the rest of 6?
Yes, that was a new topic. What I was discussing in 7 and 8 was this concept put forward to the council to consider using millage relative to solid waste versus the assessment in the millage. And that's what 7 and 8 works at, is try to accomplish your goal there. 7 is, and I think the attorney would recommend we go forward with the understanding on both pieces, that you might stick with the assessment and leave that in place and reduce the millage, go in with a higher millage and reduce that, or you leave the higher millage and get rid of the assessment, which would be later in the process.
Okay, so you don't need a motion on this right now?
We will, at some point, what I would look for is a motion that you would like to consider setting the millage rate next year at 3.8079, which accomplishes both the operating and the solid waste. Takes care of both bills. The other piece, if you do not want to do that, would be to set the millage at 1.5, and with the understanding we still haven't talked to the state, the Department of Revenue yet, relative to 3 mil equivalency test. And set an assessment, I believe it's at 3, we've got your numbers, 344.37.
I would make a motion that we set federal fund millage at 1.5 and 344, whatever the new number is for the garbage assessment, solid waste fund, at those 2 levels. Not adopt 3.8.
Okay, we have a motion for the 1.5 and the assessment for solid waste. Is there a
What's
second?
the assessment amount again? Just a second.
344.37.
Thank you. Per unit. Per unit.
Okay. So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ryan. Further discussion?
I would have to disagree with the way of doing that, in that it basically just raises taxes just perfunctorily to raise them. We don't need, the issue isn't a need for more income. The issue is a need to how to semantically describe the income we get. And I don't think that just in order to meet that need of semantics that we ought to raise people's taxes to do so. So I would think we ought to do the other way around, which keeps us revenue neutral, rather than increasing the amount of money we get. You know, because we told people we're not here to raise your taxes,
Right.
and here we are raising their taxes. And, you know, what are you gonna do with the money? You're not gonna rebate it to the people. It's not like we're saying, let's raise the millage and cut the special assessment on your garbage. In fact, we decided not to give them any subsidy on the garbage this time, so we're really giving them with a double whammy. I don't think we ought to. Like I said, it's not really a question of, and I mean, unless the town is going to really get into revenue generation and service providing, which I don't see the clamor for, I would be opposed, then we'll just vote against this idea and be in favor of the other way.
And just one thing to remind the council, I think Bill, you remember it was 40,000, we get 40,000 cushion at 1.5. Of course, that's rolling the dice and making sure everything comes in like it says it's going to. I mean, Mike and I are still going to have that dialogue with the Department of Revenue as it relates to just what the charter and you know, what that means. But you don't hurt yourself if you go to if you set the higher rate now, you can always take that down. If you don't do it now, you're locked, and then.
No, we don't hurt ourselves, we just hurt our residents.
Right, well, and we're not approving it. Right now, this is temporary. We're not voting on the millage rate.
Well,
You know?
what you're going to be doing tonight is voting on the preliminary millage, which gets advertised in the trim notice. Now, on those, you can lower them when you do the final adoptions in September. Both the assessment figure and the millage can be lowered. It's not, I can't say you can't raise them later, but it's a process so onerous to raise that you do not typically want to go through that. So you want to set these at the highest possible, like when I say highest possible, like, you know, like in a way where, you know, when we figure out with the FDOR or the final numbers, it gives you some ability to lower them later, other than having to go through first class mailings to everybody and collect the assessment on bills as opposed to the tax bill. So, you know, that's just the general view is a preliminary. You can lower them later, you can't raise them later.
What does happen is, you're going to, after this, you're going to have 2 hearings in September. At both hearings, you can lower both the assessment and the taxes to your will. And so I think what the attorney was giving you the maximum flexibility to make that decision as you go through the budget process.
Okay. So,
As a part of what they're saying, though, if we're going to raise the millage and take away the assessment, we have to do that tonight. Right now, that's not an option because we have a motion and a second, so.
Mr. Mayor, the 105, as we were presented to us, gave us additional funds, not because we needed them, but because we're trying to reach 3.0. We don't have final resolution, whether the 1.5 is even needed. Hopefully we can back it down because we get credit for the If we can't, we've got it covered. And yes, I did plan to suggest to the council that if we do end up at 1.5, the difference between 1.2 and 1.5, I would like to capture those dollars and stick them back in to reduce the assessment. Yes, in fact. We can't do what we did last year, but if we're taking more money in that we don't need, then that's, to me, one of the best ways, probably the place to put it. The other thing is, by raising our millage to cover solid waste, we aggravate the problem that I believe Councilman Goldsnake touched on before, that we have everybody with ag pays less, everybody that's not ag pays more under the higher millage. Right now, we have one of the best, I hate to say it, one of the best taxing solutions, if you will, based on usage. I'm in favor of, by the way, use tax. You know, no income tax, just when I spend it, I pay tax. But anyway, that's here or there. The point is, if you use a service, you pay for it. I don't care who you are. That's what we have today. Yes, I don't use a service twice a week, but I use a service I pay for. And that, I think, is a better way. And if I will support you if you want to go out and tell this community we're going to temporarily raise it 3.8 or some number like that, and explain it to them. I'll be back quite a ways, but I'll support that. Because that I think is kind of crazy. Now, we have a conversation coming up. This is a recommendation from staff, says 1.5 should give you the flexibility coverage. Maybe we can come back and say, no, we don't need 1.5 because they'll accept our statute as it was written, meaning that we could take credit for the other and drop it to 1.2, which I would ask at that time if that's the case. But if we get extra money, and I call it extra because we don't need it based on our budget, then I want to give it back to the community, and I do it the same way we did last year with solid waste reduction.
all right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Ron?
Mr. Speaking of statute, as we've stated in the past, we were gonna check on that. Have we had any luck? I realize you've been on vacation.
That was why it hasn't been checked on. I said at the last meeting I would not be able to do it for tonight's hearing.
Okay, so that is a priority then?
Yes, it is.
Confirm that. Okay, I believe you're gonna find out that we can continue using it the way we did with the support of the Water Control District and stuff like that. I'm like Jim, 1.5 mils, like I said before, 1.5, when they start building commercial and stuff, they're gonna give us more revenue because it's 1.5 instead of 1.2. We as a council can, whatever it raises the residents from 1.2 to 1.5, we can take care of that little bit for the taxpayers by reducing their garbage, but we can make sure that their cost does not go up one way or the other, and I feel confident that we'll do that. But I don't feel confident that we need to give commercial builders and stuff a break and let them come into the town of Waxahachie with the lowest tax revenues around.
All right, Bill.
If we're correct and the charter allows for additional revenues, you probably won't need any mills, because I think the Water Control District covers that whole bill.
Would that be great?
We talked about that before, but, Rod.
No, we've talked about that before, but when we don't have any millage, that means that commercial businesses come in this town, and they don't give us no revenue. We don't get nothing for allowing them to be here, so no, I personally don't like that idea.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 4-1. Moving to 7.
I think,
We're all done?
Mayor, I think that took care of 7 and
Okay.
8.
All right, we're good? Let's take a break.
No, now we gotta move on to the
8D8. Take a 5 minute break.
We're going to take a 5-minute break.
We got that right.
All right. Moving on to 8B.
Mayor, I'll go ahead and read the title. This is the preliminary assessment resolution for residential solid waste collection. Resolution number 2013-06, a resolution of the Town Council, Town of Waxahachie, goes forward relating to the provision of residential solid waste collection services and facilities and programs, solid waste collection services in the Town of Waxahachie, Florida, providing for purposes and definitions, providing for legislative determinations, establishing the estimated rate for the solid waste collection services assessment for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2013, directing the preparation of an assessment roll, authorizing a public hearing and directing the provision of notice thereof, providing for conflicts that are voted and effective date. Pursuant to the action you took right before the break, the proposed rate will be $344.37 for purposes of this resolution. Mark Bill will provide what the total assessed cost will be. Go ahead.
The total set cost for the record will be $427,784. Or 27784.
And the recommendation is to do the, in order to coordinate with the tax bill, and the need to get it to the property appraiser by September 15th, and the requisite time we need for publishing and whatnot. Would do the hearing on September 12th. I guess we need a time for you to do that. it has to be just after 5 o'clock. And that's not a regular meeting date for you, so whatever your pleasure is as far as.
Okay. Do we think we'll meet with that problem? Do you think we can do it?
Well, here's one of the things I had that you could think about. Because you're raising your rates from last year, you're going to have to do your own first-class mail notice. In the past, you rely on a trim notice. You have to wait till August 20th, then do the mailing, and then the 20 days after that gets you the September 12th. I guess if you wanted to work backwards and do it at your regular meeting on September 3rd, given the fact that you have to do your own first-class mail notice, you have that option, because that is before September 15th.
We have to do that anyway, our own first class mailing?
Yeah, because you're raising your preliminary rates higher than what you actually assessed last year. So if you wanted to set it, I guess if you wanted to set it on September 3rd, you could. We would just have to make sure that we also adjusted the deadlines for publication and mailing. Is that going to be possible to get the mailing out by August 14th? Which is, I'm not sure that that logistically could be an issue to get that out by August 14th.
All right, I'm not opposed to having a special meeting, I'm just saying if we do it without a special meeting, I think, being where we are, we have a little bit of opportunity to try to schedule that in the future.
We said it tonight, we won't need a special meeting.
Well, no, you don't. This is only preliminary. This is what gets advertised as your rate. You don't actually close the assessment until that hearing has to be set in September.
Okay.
So, I guess the issue is you typically have done it September 12th because it has to get there by the 15th. You do have that option. The issue, however, is logistically can the mailing actually get out by August 14th, which is a month away. So if there's any concern about the timing of that, I would just recommend keeping that as well. That's a special one-item meeting, typically done at any time after 5 o'clock. You typically done it somewhere 5, 5:30, or 6, depending on your own schedule.
Okay. All right, someone know what motion we need right now?
Just a motion for a meeting date.
We need just a motion for a meeting date
Yeah, the rest of the information we provided you.
on setting the rate for the solid waste.
Yes, the public hearing for the adoption of the annual assessment resolution.
And you're recommending what date?
September 12th, anytime after 5 o'clock.
That's a regular meeting date?
No, it's not. Your regular meetings are the 3rd and the 17th, but it has to be done before September 15th.
But it can't be done the September 3rd.
That's the issue we were just talking about, the logistics of getting the mailing out. It has to be mailed out 20 days before that to all the residents in the town, that first class mail, and it has to be specific to each unit because it has to tell you how many you're being assessed, so it's not like a postcard. It has to be specific so you understand when you get it, how much you're being charged. So the logistics of getting that done is a concern by the management company, but it's an absolute prerogative that be done 20 days before the hearing.
Okay.
So, because of that, the recommendations is to keep it,
So September 12th is what day?
it's a Thursday.
Question for you. How long would it take management to get it mailed out? We told you to mail it out tomorrow. How fast could you do it?
Well, it depends. Later on in my management report, I'm going to give you a list of projects that we're currently working on.
The reason I'm asking.
You want us to drop everything? Yeah, we can do it.
Well, hey, with 20 days, okay, I believe there's 31 days this month, anybody know? If they could get it out in the next, we could come early for the August 6th meeting, okay?
Well, we're not within 20, yeah.
Okay, no, that's pushing it.
All right, my only concern on the 12th is we're changing a day. I can't do it on Thursday. How about the 10th? It's Tuesday.
Yeah, the 10th?
Change a different day of the week, you changed a lot. Well, we're just gonna get together at what? 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, do it and go home?
5:01. or 6?
5, yeah, whatever time you want it, as long as it's after 5. And to do it on September 10th, the mailing would have to be done before the 21st of August.
We all right with that?
So we probably mail it out the week before. And the same thing with publication.
Okay, I mean, I just.
And that's a Tuesday, September 10th.
All right, someone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we meet on Tuesday, September 10th at 5 o'clock, regular place,
5:05.
5:05.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ryan. Further discussion?
We can't mail it a week earlier, is that here? No, I mean, I'm asking, you guys have to do it, so I'm asking, I'm not doing it. I mean, if you want me to do it, I'll come down and put stamps on things, but
I don't think it's actually, you gotta go through every parcel and determine the assessment, as the attorney stated. And then you have to create the database, and then that's gonna be all shipped out, and it's gonna be sent to the county as well. And
you have a database from last year, or do you not?
We haven't done the mailings because
Because we have a database for who would be paying from our,
we get a new database every year.
All right.
And
all right,
this
so if
year.
you can't do it, I'm just asking, I mean, a week to me is like, okay, I get started tomorrow on it, get it done, but I don't mind coming, I'm just saying, for a 5-minute exercise, for us, to come for 5 minutes for a day we don't normally meet,
So it'll be a Tuesday, but anyway. We changed it to Tuesday.
second Tuesday.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign.
And then with that, you have to adopt the resolution that puts the rates in that you, that we provided, sets that hearing date.
Okay. So now we make the resolution.
Yes.
I make a motion to adopt resolution 2013-06
And there's
for,
second. There's second.
I have to say the amount, or is that already?
No, that's.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Ron?
Clarification. Last year, the assessment, was it, before we paid the $120,000 to cut down the cost on the residents, was it still lower than
Yeah, the
this year?
assessment took $126,000 and we took the contribution and reduced the assessment by roughly $98 per household. We don't have that flexibility this year.
I guess what I'm asking is, the cost this year,
Oh, the
how much
cost.
higher is it than the actual cost last year?
No, our costs are actually down.
Okay, no, that's what, in other words, that it's actually costing the residents less this year compared to last year.
Had we not subsidized it,
It's going to be more, because last year we paid part of it, even though the bill was higher than
No,
it.
I realize that. I'm just wanting the cost before we did the subsidizing and stuff like that. In other words,
the
Cost of the tax.
the cost of town was about $373. This next year, it's $344.
okay, all right.
The pertinent question, though, is the 25% increase on the 1.2 to 1.5. That 25% increase is roughly $50,000. I would certainly feel better if that $50,000 we said right now is going to be used to reduce the garbage assessment, and we set the garbage assessment rate $50,000 less.
That's fine, I mean, we can make that, I think it's 40,000.
Whatever the number is, whatever the number is,
But here's the thing, if you do it tonight, and then you don't raise the one, then you're stuck at 1.5, so you can't raise this later.
Right, no, stay at 1.5.
yeah, I'm not saying to take it, I didn't say to take it down, I said since that we would be going up, I want to take the difference, the increase in money, and say lower the solid waste assessment.
Right, we don't have to make a motion tonight, but I'm assuming that you're bringing it up for us to get basically the consensus of what the council wants to do. Or are you actually trying to?
Well, there's either the consensus that everybody wants to do that, or if we're setting the assessment rate now, why don't we lower it too? I mean, we don't have to go to the exact number, but let's go ahead where people get that, they're going to get this in the mail. When they get this in the mail, there's only about 20 people here. I don't think they're going to tell the other 1,200, and when they get it, they're going to know, all they're going to see is our price went up. In fact, both of them went up. And the water district too. What the heck is wrong with all these people? You know, and that's what's coming. So I would rather say, look, this is what happened. We've tried to take account for it. this is what's up.
I need there.
All right, so if we're gonna do that, we need to change our motion.
Change it. Well, I have to change the motion because we already established an amount, but not in this motion.
Give us some guidance, Mike. Are we all right? Change that here? Do we do it later?
What, you want to lower the rate tonight?
Tonight, using,
So if you lower the rate tonight,
This, the assessment.
the assessment rate, that's what I'm saying.
You want to
lower-
raise the millage, lower the assessment to stay revenue neutral in total.
Well, it's two different things you're doing.
We understand that, but there's an amount which one's going up, which is $50,000, 25% of our millage.
What I'm concerned what you'll be doing in a
If it's too close, if what you're saying is it's going to be too close and we're going to,
is you're locking yourself in if you
It's already
lower
going up.
one, it takes away flexibility on the other hand. If we don't get the result that gives you that option, then you'll have to raise,
that I don't understand. We're raising the millage.
you haven't done it yet. You're doing the next item, 1.5, is what
So
you're
that's what we're
proposing.
sending out to people.
Correct, but that's not actually levied until September. Same thing with the assessment, they're not actually assessed until September. These are preliminary rates so that they can be noticed to folks, so they know what you're considering in September. And when you get to September, you have the ability to lower one, lower both, or keep them both the same as you adopted as preliminary. If you need to raise one of them, you have to go back and go through a complex process of first-class mailing, additional hearings, and whatnot. And so, in order to give yourselves the flexibility, that's what I'm trying, if you want to cut, it sounds like you'll be able to cut one or the other. You're either going to be able to cut the millage and keep this, depending on the answer you get from FDOR. You just don't know which one you can cut later. That's the dilemma, because you still have that open issue.
All right, we have a motion and a second.
I think this, Mayor, for no other reason, I think the discussion we've had on this indicates to me that when we have the opportunity, we will lower the assessment on garbage, assuming we took the 1.5 up. I guess that's.
I think that, like you said, we're going to lower one or the other, or I'm not going to vote for it.
Right.
That's it.
Right. So,
I mean,
I think that's our.
I'm not telling you have to do that, though. I mean, of course, if there's
Yeah.
votes, you could keep them,
No,
but
just
from what I'm
go
hearing
with a
from the
higher
debate,
number, and then one of them will come down in the future. I think that's what I'm hearing. There's enough majority of this council indicates that that's the desire as we go forward. So right now, we take the conservative starting point, give us the flexibility. Drop
when you make your final
All right,
decision.
and that's the motion we have, and that's the second.
Yes.
That's the motion. That's the second one. Yes.
So any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. All right, moving to C.
Resolution 2013-07, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Waxahachie Coast, Florida, adopting the proposed operating millage rate of 1.500 for general operating budget purposes for fiscal year 2013-14, approving and authorizing transmittal of the Form DR 420 to the property appraiser, providing for the establishment and setting forth the date, time, and place of the public hearing to consider the fiscal year 2013-2014 proposed millage rate and tentative budget, providing for conflict severability and effective date. The management company will have to provide you what the rollback rate is based on the 1.500. The first hearing is scheduled to be on September 3rd, your regular meeting at 7 p.m.
I make a motion without
We have to have the presentation rollback. So,
You have to roll back.
If I could, Mayor and Council, the 1.2 that you adopted for this year, and everything is even, it's called the rollback rate. Since you had a reduction in assessed value, your rate to bring the same dollars in is 1.2845 mils. So your millage would have to go up just to break even, is what I'm providing guidance. So 1.5 is just a little bit higher.
So the 1.5 basically with the lesser assessments should amount to the less in the bill?
We're not,
I'd like to see anybody who gets a lesser bill to come on down and show it to them.
Well, except for those of us that
Or
are
one.
homesteaded or under that Save Our Homes or anything like that.
Right. The rollback rate is the same rate that you have to set to generate the same dollars that you did this year. And that rate is up. It's rolled up rate instead of a rolled back rate.
Put that in dollar cents.
Uh,
If we had to use the 1.2 something, something, something,
The 1.2845 is the rollback
and how much is that different than 1.2 if we were to stay with 1.2?
rate.
10 grand, 5 grand, 3 grand?
I didn't do that number. That is going to be the same as the 1.2. Oh, the differential? Probably about 10 grand.
10 grand?
Yeah.
How much was the rollback again?
What was the
You're
percent
almost to
reduction in our
one, you're
assessment?
almost to 1.3. You're 1.2 to 1.3.
All right, okay.
So we lost like 8% or so in assessment?
7.5791.
Yeah, okay, there you
But we will have the option to lower the millage.
You will still have that.
Anything we want,
You will still
under
have
1.5, if we get
the right answer.
the answer that says we can count, throw in the kitchen sink in our calculator.
That's correct.
We're not fixed at the 1.2 something something, that's almost 1.3.
No. But the rollback rate for purposes of
You're
presentation.
required to provide that when you announce your proposed millage for the upcoming year,
That'd be even nicer.
compared to what the rollback rate
We
is.
could make it 1.2, so we actually reduce.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Resolution passes. Moving to 8D.
I'll go ahead and read the resolution title, 2013-08, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Waxahachie Coast, Florida, adopting a budget amendment for the town's budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2012, and ending September 30, 2013, providing for severability conflicts and an effective date.
All right.
Bill, while we're doing this, one of the things I missed besides the highlighting in yellow,
That was it, highlighting in yellow. We're recognizing some additional revenues. We had to bring in some more money from fund balance until we do the next budget amendment to pay for the 28,000 that was sent to the district. We will correct that in the next budget amendment.
well, I have 15,000 in here, what did I say?
We added,
15,000 other sanitation services appropriation.
yes, I think the council, may have been you, Councilman Rocket, wanted a special cleanup for the hurricanes, and there was a vote and a motion to have CNC loader clean up.
I thought that's what it was, but what was missing to me was an explanation of an appropriation increase. I would have expected an increase. So if you're fine tuning revenues, which would also be to me a worthwhile explanation, I can understand that. But if I'm increasing appropriations specifically, I would want to know. That's my assumption, it was because we got some money doing it for account cleanup.
You're absolutely correct.
Okay. All right. I'll entertain a motion for resolution 8D.
Make a motion to adopt resolution 2013-08.
Second,
Second. Further discussion by council?
one other point, Bill.
Yes, sir.
We only know of one potential budget change in the future, we've already talked about tonight.
Yes.
There's no others you anticipate, you've got them all now?
No. There will be more. Whatever I say, it'll be wrong.
Can we try to put them all into one, like 30 days after closing?
I would love to, but things happen that are out of my control, and the council's control. We get hit with a storm, we get hit with a cleanup, we get hit.
No, I mean, you're making budget adjustments, we can't just put them in a to-do file, you know, and make them one swoop at the end of the fiscal year, or you have to have this so that any point in time during the fiscal year, if we start to exceed our budget, we don't want anybody to see that problem. We
No,
just fix it at the end.
I think we do want to see that as we approach the year. The issue is technically, and I'm not legal counsel, but it's my understanding the council's not authorized to spend money that they have not appropriated, which is the budget amendment. So I'm trying to make sure we cover all those pockets when we have an over expenditure.
Okay. So we already spent the money for the cleanup, but we didn't have the budget appropriate.
I'm trying to cover it.
Okay.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, moving to administrative update. Mark?
Thank you, Your Honor. The first item, as you know, we talked about this a little bit at the last meeting, but unfortunately, Mike and I will still have to get together on this, and that was the issue with Bill Klein. From the minutes, it appears that you denied the ordinance on second reading. Mike and I will get together and we'll have a definitive response to the August 6th meeting as to which way we need to go from the process standpoint. As I indicated a little bit earlier, we did start our contract with Sadar, and we did give them an initial notice to proceed for 16 streets in the northwestern and western sections of the town. They finished that, they completed that assignment today. They also issued a second notice to proceed, which officially starts tomorrow on the 17th, and gave them another 12 streets. As you're aware, we're getting some comments, very positive. I received one from Mr. Jeff Bacon on Eaton Trail, same thing, indicating very happy. Go ahead and do that. So our intended action is to keep via notice that proceeds, giving them additional streets till we kind of make one pass through the town. And then, of course, as we discussed in previous meetings, then the next item will be the ditch on Compton Road that is heavily vegetated and needs to be addressed in some fashion. Staff is going to hand out a updated priority business initiatives list. You've heard me talk about all the various projects that the staff is working on from time to time. This list identifies, and I think we got most of the big ones, 37 projects that we're currently working on from time to time. And that, of course, does not include, if you look at the last page of that handout, that does not include the one-time occurrences that happen every year, like preparation of the comprehensive annual financial report, the annual financial report to the auditor, the continuous building permits review, doing traffic signage, things like that. That's not an all-inclusive list, it's just to give you a flavor for what the management staff has been doing. So sometimes when you ask, how come a certain project isn't moving, because we certainly have nothing to do on a daily basis, but it just gives you an idea. Obviously, some projects on that list haven't been started, even to my satisfaction. So I just wanted to make you aware of it. It's just for your information. We prioritized it, as you asked us last year to do, with this amended list. But as I've indicated in there, obviously, if you have some feedback or if you want to discuss it collectively as a council and change anything on that list, by all means, please let me know and we'll do it. One of the first tier projects on there listed is the FEMA flood maps. And later on tonight, you'll be looking at 3 contracts for engineering services. I would like to tell the council that, with your permission, I would like to move forward and give notice to proceed with our town engineering vendor, because I really need those folks to start looking at the firm maps and the projected floodplain maps that FEMA has issued, because they're going to be coming to town in September, working with all the Palm Beach County communities. And I really need to start having that reviewed so that the town can protect its interests. As you know, right now, they have most of the town in the floodplain, which we weren't before. So there's a serious ramification to that. Is certainly one project I want to get started. And my intention would be to get the traffic signal project started with the traffic engineering consultants, although I'll kind of, again, wait on you. If you guys want me to get started right away, I will. If you want me to wait a little bit on that, I can do that too. But we need to start generating these notices to proceed, because we've been holding some of these projects off due to not having an engineer on board. And with that, that concludes my report.
Okay, questions?
Mark, may I ask you about one of your weekly significant issue items?
Yes.
First item on the July 5th report. I don't know if I have any more information, which was town manager, town planner met with a couple of parties on the Calvary Judge. I have no idea what that's about. If you have anything that you can send to us relative to that,
Or I can give you a verbal update now, whatever you prefer.
that's fine. I mean, when I see something on your weekly list and I don't know, have any idea why you've done what you did, then it would be helpful maybe.
The two gentlemen were Don Herring and John Carter. John Carter is a vice president, I believe, of Minto Developers. And I don't know if it's officially gone through, but I think Calvary Judge is working with Minto, and Minto would probably be the developer, Calvary Judge. Commercial development, residential development, the whole 9 yards. They're just making the initial overtures to meet with individuals from various cities at some point in time. And they've indicated they certainly would be willing to come and do presentations to town council if he so desired. So just a very informal, hey, we're going to be looking at developing the Calvary Judge site, and we're not there yet. We're months away, but just letting you know we're here and we'd like to work with you, and if you have any concerns. And Mr. Fleischman and I did communicate town council concerns relative to October as to how that might impact us and our concerns relative to that issue. So that was the basic scope of that meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions for you? Thank you, Mark.
Yes, sir.
Moving to old business, Compton, 10A. Ron?
I've had residents call me all week long. The potholes are getting worse and worse. We had Mark had our utilities director go over there and check the potholes and stuff. They're too big for us to do the way we did Marcella and a couple others. We filled the hole with cold asphalt, compacted it. I spoke with the water control district. What I'd like for the council to direct management to do, and I spoke with Mark today, is that we fill those holes with road rock material. We've got a contract with the water control district as far as road rock and grading. Well, we wouldn't grade it, but I believe, and Mark is going to verify that our contract with the water control district would allow them to fill the potholes with road rock material, compact it with their backhoe or whatever they use. That brings the safety factor up to where the road is safe to ride on. It marks the outstanding potholes, and I ride that road 2-3 times a week. It's in bad shape. And I explained to the residents that if I can get the council to agree to it, we fill it with road rock material. Hopefully when our vegetation, bush hogging people get to the point where they make it over to Compton, they'll hedge the drainage ditch, and then we'll follow up with CNC loader to pull the vegetation out that has been cut. And then we'll continue to move from there and work on the drainage problems. And then after we get that done, with the consensus of the council, then we'll concentrate on resurfacing Compton, Marcella, and Bryan Road. So the priority right now is just to fill the potholes in with road rock material. That's a very cheap route. They said they were getting a price on having an asphalt company to come in there and fill the potholes. An asphalt company's going to want to square up the holes, put the asphalt in there. It's going to cost them an arm and a leg, and chances are they would come back to the town and ask for our support in paying the bill. So I think they would be satisfied with a temporary fix. And I think we could make that happen as soon as possible so that that road is made safer.
All right. We need action on this.
Yeah.
I make a motion that I put in it may not have got, I requested a work request today through our policy and procedure that the road rock material would be put on Compton Road, and that request will be approved or disapproved by Mark. So I make a motion that we fix Compton Road potholes with road rock material as a temporary fix as soon as possible.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
A second by Jim. Further discussion? Now, real quick, I have always been told that one of the beauties of Ocean was it could be patched. It wasn't like asphalt that you need to come in and it was not a big thing. Do we need to find out, can we get some of the product or we can pack it back in there, because that was my assumption, because that was one of the beauties of the ocean.
Well, Your Honor, Vice Mayor did ask me to try to look into that. Unfortunately, I apologize, I was not able because we were running some budget numbers tonight, trying to get ready for the meeting. But I will check the, I believe we can do it under, if not under the rock project, as the Vice Mayor is requesting. We do have, one of the 3 contracts with the Water Control District is the road repair. And yeah, I might be able to do it under that contract, in which that case, if the district can do it, you know, as far as patching, then we can go that route. So if you give me that flexibility, I can do it either way, depending upon, you know, what works.
Okay, all right with that, Ron?
No, and here's the reason why. The bids we've already got on what they call micro surfacing Compton, Marcel, and Brown. What happens is when they come across and they make that a new road, we went up to the north end of Indiantown and that area, and we've seen what that micro resurfacing is. It's the cheapest route we can take, but it makes the road look brand new. But the one thing they do is when you've got holes and stuff, when they resurface, they start from one end to the other. And those holes are filled. They don't square it out, they just fill the holes with the same stuff that they put on the surface of the road. Now, if we compact it with cold asphalt or whatever, then I personally don't know how that will attach to the cold thing. It would be a whole lot easier for them to take that road rock material out, if that's what they want to do. So that's why I would rather go with the road rock material. It's so much easier, and when you talk about using the gold mix, it's time consuming. And supposedly the district, and Frank can verify that, the district did one spot on Compton Road up by David Maris's place, and the residents are already complaining about it. They use the coal mix. The thing with the road rock material, we can always put more in, but that should maintain it. And if we build it high enough, the water should stay out of the hole. So that's the cheapest route to go, and that'll make it that much easier when we do resurface that road.
All right, so, Tom?
I would like to give the town management as much flexibility as it is. I don't really feel, I didn't even notice it was on the agenda. I didn't get a chance to look at anything. I don't know what's going on. But I don't think we should be directing specific actions.
Okay.
So that's just my thought.
All right, Ron?
I've already spoke. I went to town management first. I went to the town manager and our utilities director. And our utilities director, he went over there, he looked at the road, and he felt like putting cold asphalt and stuff in there is too time consuming and it's too big of a project. So I went to management first, and they did not have a problem with this. Now we're approving it as a council. Okay, town management knows what needs to be done. The utilities director knows what to be done. We're not telling them how to do their job. We're coming up with a temporary solution to help the residents on Compton. And we need to quit beating around the bush. We need to help the people before they hire an asphalt company to come in there, because they're tired of waiting for our assistance.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, passes 4-1. Moving on to new business, annual management team evaluation. Councilman Rocket.
In this package, I believe my note is included. The note was simply a reminder to our town manager that according to my copy of the contract we have with the town management team, that performance criteria evaluation contract for town management services shall be reviewed annually. This annual review will be comprised of performance and evaluation criteria established and managed by the town council based upon the duties contained in the contract, along with the town management report through June of the current year prepared by the town manager. This annual review of the contract for town management services shall occur no later than August 1st of each year, and the town manager is responsible for placing this annual review on the town council agenda. All I did was send a note, or town manager said, hey, I don't recall us having this done this. August 1st is upon us. We don't do it at this next meeting, we'll miss it. So it was written up as, I requested the item on the agenda. So since I'm on the agenda as the requester, I guess I have the flexibility to take it off. But my point is, we should have had this meeting. We should have had the discussion. Town manager is responsible for that, not me. We'll put it off, he can put it at another time. If he doesn't hold it by August 1st, we don't fire him, so I guess it's okay. But I would suggest that he put it on an appropriate schedule for the town council. But first thing, it's kind of ironic. We're talking about our town manager schedules his own performance review. That's our contract. One of the things that has to be presented is a report through June of the current year. We don't have that. That's one of the criteria. We don't have that, so we can't have a review. So I'll suggest to the town council, we postpone this until we can have the June report through June prepared for us to be included as one of the criteria that we use in evaluation. But I underscore the fact that this is not something that we should have to bring up. And if the town manager misses his own performance criteria deadline, that tells me a little something right there. But I suggest we take it off the agenda and postpone it to such time the town manager is prepared to give us all the information we need, but not too distant future.
All right. Mark?
Well, Mayor, we have two items at play here. Councilman Rocket did mention the fact that the evaluation was due. He's correct. We put it on. We're ready to discuss it tonight. The issue, there are two issues. You're talking about a review based upon the town management company based upon the contract. And then what Councilman Rocket is referring to is one of the responsibilities of the town manager is a report that's due at the end of June. Now, we provided that in terms of the budget we provided you at the end of June. We did meet that requirement. Plus, I give you a significant events email every week. Plus, we give you all the financials and the FAAC report. So I suppose if the councilman is asking for another report to do another work item, I'll be happy to do that. But I think we cover everything. I mean, you know, and if there's any questions you have about what's going on, I mean, we can do that. I did look back at the previous management company, what they did, and they did the same thing. They did basically a report to you, the line items where the budget was, and that's it. We're ready to go line item by line item if Councilman Rocket likes. We can talk about how we're meeting the contract. But I hope he's not trying to make this personal, because really we should be reviewing the management company, not the town manager. We work as a management company. So with that, be happy to address it any way you want.
Well,
No.
Joe already said, let's take it off to you.
The report is not only financial.
Okay.
And the other point to be made, the agenda items we were given 2.5 pages in the agenda for items to use for performance evaluation. 2.5 pages out of 7.5 that are in the contract. 1 page is for town manager in the package. There's 6.5 pages in the contract that describe town manager's responsibilities. You weren't even given enough to look at to remind you what it is, the criteria we're doing an evaluation on. So the management report through June is not financial only, and the documentation that you need, we probably need to send the contract out so that all the items are included. One of the items that was not included was exactly what I read from, the performance criteria evaluation is his responsibility to put it on the calendar. So we need better input to us for that, and so I'll leave it for some day in the future before.
And Your Honor, as I indicated, we're ready to go through every line item of the contract tonight. I thought that's what he wanted to do. Now, you know, I didn't put the copy of the contract in again. I mean, I suppose I could have done that. We did that last year, and last year we didn't even talk about it, so I didn't think it was necessary. But I got it right here. If you'd like to go through, we can go through it, line item by line item.
Now, this is the preparation for the council. Council can't look at something now and do an evaluation.
Okay. All right. Moving on to 11B.
So there's no action on that.
11B, approval of engineering contracts.
Yes, Your Honor, we brought two of the, both the general town engineering and the traffic engineering at your last meeting as addendum items, and just in case we did want to move forward, you asked to push them back into this meeting. And we also got the surveying with A&B Engineering done. So we have all three, and we're ready to go. If, we're ready to answer any questions if you have relative to them.
All right. Do we have a presentation, or we're just making a motion on these three? These are your recommendations, right?
Right. The town attorney's office and town management staff have, based upon the request for qualifications and your approval of the selected firms, we did the competitive negotiation. The contracts have been drafted. Pretty much, they're boilerplate contracts. They're pretty much the same with the exception of the change-outs in the names and the functions of the engineer. So I guess, Mike, are they able to do them individually or one?
I would do a separate vote for each of them. I'm just reminders to go back, you did award, you did go through the statutorily required process for these.
And that's fine. I would hope in the future, I mean, we got plenty of paper. Put an A, B, C, one on each one. If we're going to be making a different motion on each one, just kind of separate them out,
Mr. Mayor, if I could, let me make the first motion to
Okay.
approve this first one I can't pronounce, the
General engineering,
Cachevaris. I'll get that, but,
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Ryan, okay. Any discussion?
And my motion is totally predicated on the fact that this has been reviewed by not only the review committee, the town management, and the attorney to add infinitum.
And that's
They're
our
all
assumption,
together with.
right?
That's
All
correct.
these in close
Our
review.
office prepared it, yes.
Thank you. So then I'm.
Okay. Ron?
A question for management. This firm here, looks like they handle land surveyors and stuff like that now. What I'm thinking about in the future, A&B Engineering Inc. also is our surveyors, but this outfit actually could handle our surveying needs also. Okay, because I like one person kind of handling. I don't like two people charging us 200 something bucks to get together and put their heads together.
Let me just say, in answer to that question, however, Cachevaris was one of the three finalists also for surveying. But A and B got the nod from the committee. I did talk with the town attorneys, and they felt, I wanted to find out if I had the flexibility, should there have been a problem in the future with A and B, could I go to Cachevaris, being that they were also, they applied for surveying and they were highly ranked. And the attorneys felt that based upon the request for qualifications and the scope of services, that it wasn't that easy, and should probably refrain from doing that. However, if I had a situation come up where A and B, either due to whatever reasons, could not perform an assignment, I would have to come back to you and get an amendment to the contract with Cachevaris. So we're proceeding on that basis. It would be a little time consuming. We'd have to do it at your next meeting, and just get your approval to engage them to do that.
Yeah, remember, these services were qualification based. That's what the statute requires. And so the A and B was selected as the most qualified surveyor for the scope of work of surveying work. So although you've got the ability of another contractor to do the same, based on the statutorily required selection process, A and B came out as recommended for that service. If there was an issue with A and B and work needed to be done, it's good to know that we have someone else we can turn to in a pinch, and we already have the prices for that too.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion, all in favor? Okay, go ahead.
Mark, can you tell me a little bit about the process? We have Cachevaris as the general engineer, as well as the two that you lumped into that category. how did we go, Casaveras was number 2 in the original ranking, I believe, for general, from a chart that I looked at. You recommended that when you combined all those functions, the other survey and the other environmental, and that you then put them as on top of the list of the general, as well as those are 2 added in. At the time, I thought I had Edmund and Anthony as the top ranked company for general in one of the charts that I have from past meetings. And, but Edmund and Anthony had no other, they did not, I guess this no means they didn't provide a response for that category. In the chart that you gave us, yes, no, yes, no.
This process was done under CCNA, Consultants Competitive Negotiation Act, I think it's 287. And what it requires is you shortlist all the applicants you have. So all 3 of them were very close. It was Urban Anthony, it was Kesher Barrett, and it was Simmons and White, who actually ended up being the selection for traffic engineering. The committee reviewed them. We listened to all 3 entities. As you may know, Urban Anthony is also the engineer for the Water Control District, and the committee felt very strongly that could be a problem. We wanted to have a different engineer. Kesher Barrett did very well. It was the committee, he blew the other 2 away. So, I mean, that's the process you go through, and that's what we did.
Well, the reason I asked the question is because I have a chart that I believe has Edmund and Anthony ranked first for general at one time. It's in the same package that they were not recommended to be the top 3, to be the ones you contracted with. But it is in the same package, so I just didn't understand how we went from.
Right, but I caution you, that's only the initial ranking to get them to the selection. When you get to the selection, you have 3 firms and you give them all equal, I mean, each one does a presentation, the committee looks at all of them, listens to the presentations, and then makes a determination.
All right, I'm looking at, I mean, I'll share the sheet with you, but it was, you had 3 categories. You had rank 1, 2, and 3 in each category with a backup, and the Edmonds was one of them. Now, explanation, the committee felt like they didn't want to have the same engineering firm as the Water Control District. I understand that as a reason. I'm not sure that that reason would sway me that much. But when I looked at the other sheet that you provided, which was this yes-no sheet, suggests to me that that was who responded to that category of service or who did not. You remember that, what I'm talking about?
Yeah, no, the yes-no sheet was basically, there were 10 total firms. 9 went for engineering, and A&B was strictly the only pure surveying firm. Okay. A couple of the firms wanted to do multiple services. They really weren't. They kind of messed up. So what we did is we treated everybody equally, and if they wanted to be considered, we looked at them. These 3 firms, out of the 9 that wanted to be the town's engineer, rose to the top. They were the 3 that we selected for the next step in the process, which was the presentations.
Okay. I was wondering if, because Edmund and Anthony had checked no for the categories that you were rolling into them, they had checked no for environmental, no for civil inspection services, that means they did not wish to participate in that engineering service? Is that what that chart tells me?
I don't know that. I didn't talk to them in
I
terms of...
mean, you have no. What does no mean in the chart?
It means they weren't interested in that service.
That's my question.
Yeah.
So I presume that if they weren't, and you were trying to roll those 2 additional services in, they really were eliminated for another reason besides Water Control District service that they provide.
Yeah, they weren't eliminated because they didn't check yes for that service. That, in fact,
I just didn't understand how they went from one ranking to, when you roll in the other services, they seem to be put out as ranking. I'm just trying to clarify what the process was. I don't know that I would worry about engineering firm work for both our organization, but that's neither here nor there. That's not my question.
Okay, Tom.
Didn't we already pick who was who? So I think we're sort of backtracking several meetings.
But Tom, I didn't understand what happened. I'm trying to get to that point so I can ask the questions I just heard, I think. I'm just trying to clarify. That's the first time I've heard that they were eliminated for a reason.
Okay, Ron.
And I personally, I think you've done an outstanding job. I think the committee did an outstanding job. You had a reference from Steve, he felt like all 3 of these were good. But the reason I ask my questions is we're gonna be doing it again at the end of 3 years unless we hold on to them. So at the end of their contract, I'd like to know ahead of time rather than go out for specific people, if we're satisfied with guests of ours and he's capable of doing a survey, then let's don't make the same mistake twice. If he's capable of doing it legally, can we use him? I'm not talking about now, I'm talking about in 3 years. If we go out for this again, if we go out for RFPs, could we use one firm to do both things?
Well, if you go back out on another selection process,
No, I'm talking in 3 years when the contract's
well, the problem is, if you don't use the current vendor and you go to change vendors, then you can see it's one of those professions that's covered by the CCNA. You may be obligated to go back out on the street and rebid that out. That's the issue with the CCNA. They select certain professions that you have to go through specific bidding processes for, and it has to be qualification based. It won't be price based if it's covered by the CCNA.
I'm not talking about price based.
I understand,
I'm
but I'm
talking about one
saying-
person doing 2 jobs. In other words, I'd like to know before we ever go out again, if one person's qualified to do 2 jobs, can we get them? I mean, I don't want us to have to make a commitment like that.
No. Yeah, you could.
Okay.
You could structure the selection
We
that
could
way.
have picked them for the surveyor if we.
Yeah, but they did,
But they could be recommended.
Yeah, but it was qualification based.
Right, and I realize that, like I said, the committee did an outstanding job. But we got a problem right now, okay? We got the water control district with their lawyers. We've got the town with their lawyers. Now, as far as Edmund and Anthony, okay, hey, we would have, Urban, we would have had one engineering firm working for both entities. Now, if it could have been done legally, personally, I thought that was a good idea. Now we're gonna, when we do have situations, I would believe that in the future, we're gonna have our engineer getting with the water control district engineers for different things that will arise. So there we're back to paying double the price. I mean, that's just the way I'm looking at it. Correct me if I'm wrong, so thank you.
Each one represents a different organization. As soon as you start having one for, I think that is probably going to lead to more confusion in a community where there's always already a tremendous amount of confusion as to who does what. So I think it's very important that we keep it separated.
On that exact point, when we were doing the OGEN, we were situated with Urban Anthony, determining so much of the bill was the water management district and so much was the town. It would have been nice to have our own engineer to argue for us versus them just arbitrarily deciding who's going to pay what without anybody going back to it. So I think I agree with your point. And I agree with Ron in that we shouldn't be paying 2 guys to sit in a room and spend a lot of time talking because we're all just spending money. They need to, when they're doing what they're doing, they need to get it done in a concise way.
Okay, we have a motion.
Because we have been spending a lot of time with attorneys, as everyone knows, with this road.
And the one thing, originally when we did this, and Bill and I talked about this, we did do it, we queued it as 5 different services. And that's why we decided to roll them in, because we felt that, ideally, if you wanted to get 2 on a continuing services contract, so you had services covered. However, that would have necessitated us doing 10 contracts, or even 6 contracts. And, Bill and I felt that, it might be better to just do 1 service provider for each of those 3 services, roll the civil engineering and the environmental engineering into the general town engineer, and then we're only dealing with 3 contracts. And as you can see, 3 contracts is a pretty tough task. So.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Moving to traffic engineering.
Make a motion to accept A and B engineering
Traffic
services
engineering.
contracts.
Simmons and White. You give the wrong company to the
I
wrong
don't know, I'm
company.
reading this there.
Okay.
What was it?
Simmons and White for traffic engineering.
Well, that's kind of the red, not the black.
Second.
We didn't cross out the black.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further, any discussion? If not, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving to the third, A and B engineering for surveying.
Jim.
You'll make a
I'll
motion?
make a motion.
Okay, Jim makes a motion.
Second.
Second by Ron. Discussion.
Done.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Passes 5-0. Okay. Moving to 11C. 11C. Before we go there, just real quick while we're on this, I think it's real good that we have 3 different companies. In construction, there's been a movement over years to go with what's called a shell contractor. And the management teams like it because they only deal with one guy. But what the shell does is that he goes out and gets all the lowest priced guys to do it under him. And the services have really gone down. So we've got a management team that does a good job. Let them manage each one. And I think this is the right way to do it. Anyway, okay. 11C.
Okay, 11C, I brought this up. Essentially what I'd like to do is, as we're all aware, there's a lot of things going on with development, with the Southern Boulevard changes, with the issues relative to pond sites and all these things. There has been some work by the town management on the comprehensive plan changes that are for the Southern Boulevard corridor, but there was the meeting that was held on Valentine's Day, and it was poorly attended as a result of the, whatever reasons and the weather. And what I would like to do is I would like to have an opportunity to have an additional meeting in which the town staff invites the people who live within the area from C Road to E Road and from Collecting Canal to Southern. Specifically invites them as well as the other members of the town, but specifically them to give their input as to what they'd like to see in their area. And this sort of ties to the idea that we talked about in the past about super blocks and areas deciding for themselves what they would like to see. And, you know, Ron talked about it earlier with Tangerine. Some people want it, some people don't. You know, let's talk it through, let's figure it out, let's figure out where it's gonna go. Some people don't want it because they don't know where it's going. Some people don't, you know, they don't know who, what, where. Jim has some ideas relative to some things that, and Jim Fleischman I'm referring to has some ideas relative to some things that don't really fit other parts of the town, but might fit that area, that aren't quite retail commercial, but are other alternatives that, rather than go through the specifics right now because of individual projects that people have, I think it would just be nice if we could, with y'all's permission, to go ahead and have another meeting on the subject.
Okay.
So that's what I'm looking for, is the council consensus that that would proceed.
Looking for consensus here. Everybody all right with that?
Well, we had a meeting, I thought, as well attended as it would be done. I don't know if they have another interchangeable one.
There was 3 people that showed up. I don't think that's well attended. I think it's very poor. And I know that there's a lot of people who live in this area that really do want to see something happen. And there's people who have said that commercial goes all the way to Collecting Canal. I heard that 3 different times from 3 different people who live in this area. Is it? If it don't, we need to let them know, because it's getting out there and people are buying real estate based on it, because real estate brokers are pushing that story. Because somebody's saying it. So, I'm just saying we need to do something. If we're gonna stick our heads in the sand, let's do it, but there's people who live in this area who want to know what's going to happen. And there's people who are having their property maybe taken by the DOT, and they want to know what they can do and what they can't. I think it would be appropriate that we discuss it with them. If the council says, hey, we did it on Valentine's Day, we don't really need your input anymore, that's fine. But we sure listen to anything that Land Design South or Kerry Kilday or any of these folks come here and they just spend their time talking to us for weeks and weeks and weeks of how much time that I've been on this council has Bob Benson standing over there talking. But we don't want to hear from the people, no. I really think that's a poor way. If that's what the council wants, that's fine, but I really think that's a real poor way to treat the folks that live around here.
Okay.
I respond to that, Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would not frame what we are saying that we're putting our heads in the sand. We've done this once, the point was, we had a meeting, we invited everybody to be there, they chose not to be there, they didn't come.
That's right, screw that.
They, excuse me, excuse me. But by saying, we'll put our heads in the sand, is not appropriate, that we don't care what people have to say, or anything that alludes to that kind of comment, that doesn't apply either, and it doesn't have a place. I was commenting on the fact that we had a meeting. I don't know that we have a meeting again, it's gonna make any improvement. If we have this one, should we have another one for Okeechobee? Certainly, we want input from the people, and we gave the opportunity. Maybe we just simply send them, if we want to invite a select group of people, you might just send them a note and say, if you have any questions or input, send it to us. But having another meeting, we got to prioritize the work that's going on now by town manager staff. If we're going to put this in somewhere in above something else, we have to think about that too. I'm not against having it, but I think we've done it once. And I don't know that we're going to do anything again. It's going to change what we have as a result of that. But that's you got to think about what else gets put aside too.
Brian, what's your thought?
I'm open to it. If there is sufficient amount of people asking for it, I'm open to it. But also, we do have to keep in mind we have quite a bit of stuff that we got on our plate. So we do have to balance that. If there's enough desire to have one, I'm open to having it.
Okay, Ron?
First of all, I resent Tom speaking for the rest of this council, okay? Because I spend a lot of time talking to people in Loxahatchee about Tangerine Drive, about fixing their roads up, stuff like that. If there's so many people out there that want a workshop, I don't have a problem with a workshop. I guess I'm just kind of getting tired of us having a workshop, and management already has so much on their plate. We're trying to pick out the priorities. I guess I'm disappointed that we don't have such a good crowd when we have our workshops. Now, if we're going to have like I said, I don't have a problem, we can have another workshop. First of all, I don't want it next week, okay? I want to give the people plenty of time to prep for it. I want to pick a time where the people are in town, they're not on vacation. The excuse was Valentine's Day was a bad day, and it was a bad day. But we agreed for a workshop, and that was the only time we could have it. So take our time, we pick a time where the residents will attend, hopefully. But I think the residents, if there's so many people out there, and I haven't had anybody ask me for a workshop. I've had people ask me about commercial and about the college and about the plans for Southern Boulevard and about getting amendment changes on their property because they're going to put a pond siding on it and stuff like that. And I recommended they come to town management, Jim Flashman, Mark, and find out what they need to do and then bring it to the council. So if there's so many people out there that are really concerned, then I would like to see them at least make one council meeting, sit in this audience, and say, hey, we want a workshop, we would like to have it at such and such a time, so they can't say we picked a bad day, a bad night, or whatever. And that's not asking too much. Fill this house, standing room only, and let the people tell us, hey, we need a workshop, we want to know what's going on in Southern Boulevard. And that's the only way I'll support another workshop.
Tom?
I have never spoken for this council in my life. I have always, whenever given the opportunity, stated that I'm 1 and 4. Now, other people sure don't act that way, but I do. So I don't resent it because I expect this kind of crowd. But it's funny how I've never heard a word about this groundswell for Compton. You know, maybe some people talk to me about one thing and they talk to other people about other things. So just because you never heard it doesn't mean that people don't talk about it. And I personally know that there's a lot of people who lived around here a long time in this area who are getting tired of developers getting whatever they want and everybody from around here just getting the shaft. Y'all might not see it that way, but I do. So, you know, while you're making decisions for other people's property, while you're making decisions that are going to basically cause people to have to move because they're going to live in a shopping center, you ought to think about that. I know there's some who don't care about anything other than a traffic light to improve their situation. But when other people need an improvement or some consideration, that's not a priority. I fully understand priorities. That's okay. If you all don't want to have a meeting, I will get the people to come here, and I will get them to tell you. Okay? Seriously.
My thought on this is, it's a shame there are only 3. I don't know how it was advertised. I don't know, who picked the date. It seems like Valentine's Day would have been a bad day to have that, but,
Just a clarification, there actually were a lot of people there, I think there were about 40, but I think what the councilman was referring to, there were only 3 property owners from Southern Boulevard. Because I believe Councilman Liang, Councilman Rocket were actually there that night, that evening, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think it was like a Thursday, and it was Valentine's Day. I heard from a number of people they weren't happy that we had selected that day, and that was just a...
Yeah.
Labor Day, that sounds like.
Didn't want to go there, but thank you, Mike. So, yeah, but, we
scheduled by guys that didn't want to take their wives. I understand. All right, so what are our thoughts? Are we going to try to do it again?
I like the concept of Ron says, that some people come here and tell us they'll show up and they want the meeting. But we didn't. That's my perspective. There was a number of people there, but I didn't take down and ask who was there from.
And maybe the option is going to be to have it on a meeting night, but do it like we do a lot of other workshops. Start it at 6:30, 6 o'clock, go to 8, and then postpone our regular meeting. So, maybe something like that, where we could dedicate that time to a workshop, and then cost us a Saturday or something like that.
I would recommend, since Tom was mentioning, we didn't have that much representation from that particular area, maybe we should contact them first, see which days works for them, and then we'll try to workshop from that date. Because honestly, it doesn't matter what day we pick, because we either get grief if it's on a Saturday, we get grief that it's on a Saturday, we want to get our weekends free to do our thing. If it's at night, on a weeknight, we say we're too tired from work and we can't come. So honestly, it doesn't matter what date we pick, there's going to be someone complaining about the date. But if we at least contact those parties directly affected, so we have a better showing from them, and then we try to pick up maybe 3 or 4 dates from that, and then we can go from there.
And Mayor, just one comment, about the process, because you may want us to change it, but what we actually did was, staff had put together a listing of both, we had one, you may remember, we had one workshop for Okeechobee, one workshop for Southern. We had a mail-out notice, because we were trying to get the owners on both roadways to participate, and we had a general notice, which basically indicated for the general public to also attend the meetings. It was strictly with staff, only because we wanted them to give us input as it related to us working on the plan amendments. On this one, maybe you want the workshop to be with you all, as opposed to staff. We could change the process and the way we're doing it. Whatever you'd like to do, we'll be happy to try to do it that way.
I think the staff is fun. Get the input. We don't need us there. We're here at a meeting. So, but maybe we get the word out again and try it again. Okay, I got Todd McClendon.
Todd McClendon, D Road. I agree with what everybody's saying out there. There's nobody down here complaining about the commercial that's going there, and you've got 40 houses on Tangerine. But we all know sitting here, those 40 houses don't want commercial right at their front door on Tangerine, but nobody's down here complaining. A lot of these people that live out here want to stay out of government. They don't want government in their lives, and unfortunately, that means they don't come into the government and talk to the government and tell them what they want. But all 5 of you up here know darn well that 90% of those people that live on Tangerine don't want commercial out front there, let alone the back of the commercial facing Southern and the entrance coming in off of Tangerine, like some people have proposed. We don't need to have a workshop on that. And I know, Mr. Gerald, you're a great organizer. If there is going to be a workshop, go down there and get some of these people and come down there into this meeting. You're a fantastic organizer. Go down there, try to get 20% of those people that live there to come to this workshop and have some input as to what they want in their front yard. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so you're going to contact those people, or
your direction, sure.
Is that, everybody all right with that?
After you get everything else done on your list.
Okay. Ron, you all right with it?
Do we need to prioritize it for you, Mark? or- I mean,
Look, that one's actually in the top tier. That's in the
Okay.
first 10, so.
Okay.
I think we.
Anybody against the idea? All right, we have consensus. All right, moving to 11D.
This is a very simple one. I hope it's not contentious, guys. Seriously, very simple. Anybody who drives around Waxahachie sees people with golf carts and side-by-sides on the road. I've had people come to me, believe it or not, who have told me that they were told by the PBSO they'd be arrested if they did it again. Is that what we want to have happen? Do we want people arrested for driving golf carts on the roads in Waxahachie? If so, that's fine. I'll tell the folks, stay off the golf carts, stay off the road. But I saw some kids on F Road driving down the horse trail on the golf cart today. Should they be arrested? Is that what y'all want? Your kids to go out and get arrested by the PBSO because they're driving a golf cart? We have plenty enough things going on to worry about than people being threatened with arrest and criminal sanctions for being on a golf cart. Now, if you don't want them on the roads and everything, and nobody wants it to happen, well then, by all means, let's tell PBSO, throw them under the jail. But, you know, this kind of enforcement is, I think, not what people expect when they live in Waxahachie. A lot of people say, well, this is Waxahachie. If it isn't anymore, we need to let people know, because there's a whole lot of people that think it is. So I think that we ought to research, and Michael has the information, what the golf cart laws are, and he needs to do a little bit more research relative to the side-by-sides, and I'd really like him to have the information for us, so that it's not a question of it could be this, it could be that. But if the council would let Mike please research this and come back to us with the facts of what's going on, so that we can, if we decide we're not going to allow it, that we get it out to the people that they don't need to do it, because people shouldn't get arrested for it. You shouldn't go to jail because you got on a golf cart and rode around the corner to look at your cows, or to go down and go fishing, or to go over to your friend's house. And I see all of this happening, and it's not me doing it. I don't have a golf cart, I don't have anything but a bicycle and a Jeep and a truck. So I think all those things are legal, but we'll see.
Okay, Jim?
What's the side-by-side?
By that I mean like a Gator,
It's not
a Polaris, not something that has handlebars, something that has a steering wheel, like either Polaris, a mule, a Gator, something like that, generally used on a farm or somebody, you know, to take the
I
garbage
have one
out.
of those, never called side-by-side, so I didn't know what you're referring to. There is some safety issues, of course, we concern ourselves with our roads, and they're not that great a safety issue. I don't know of anybody that arrested, you may know somebody, Tom, that's arrested.
Not arrested, but they were told on 4th of July that if they were seen on the machine again, they would be arrested.
All right, and I don't know of anybody therefore that's been in jail, but you referred to that too in Waxahachie.
Possibility.
I don't know that that's such a big issue. I'm sure the limited police that we have out here, if we had a desire to modify the approach and leave it as warnings, I don't know. But I'm certainly, it's a safety issue starting. And, you know, driving both of those types of items, be a golf cart or side-by-side, when it comes to a car, you lose. When it comes to the drivers of those vehicles, they're usually not as concerned about other cars on the road. But I think it's fine to have Mike give us information that would be for that basis for it, and just to say what it is. And then I would like maybe include Mark. He would ask Lieutenant Combs a little bit about what options he might have as far as what the town might ask for. I mean, does he have an option to give just warnings? And I did have somebody actually come up to me and complain about being stopped by a sheriff officer for riding a golf cart from their home to their husband's business. So I know it happens, but I don't know that it's such an issue of registry. I mean, you know they're threatening that. I don't know who, if it was a teenager threatened, that's one thing, but if an adult's threatened, it's something else, because it depends on what they're trying to do as sheriff deputies. But there is a concern of safety. But see if Mark, Mike can find it for me, and if Mark, if you have an opportunity, I think your weekly sometimes gets foxes. Ask them about it. That's what I would like to do.
Okay, anybody else? Ron?
I believe Mike can clarify a couple of things right now. He's done the checking on golf carts and side-by-sides, so I'd like to hear what you told me earlier, Mike, please.
Well, I don't know about the side-by-sides, because I got clarification on that this evening. You know, I wasn't sure if it was another term for ATV, because I know there's a statute that prohibits ATVs. That part is, I don't have any information on it. I just didn't have that. There is a statute on golf carts on public roads. It's prohibited unless you make a finding that there are been designated certain roads on which golf carts can be operated safely. You have to do a safety review to consider the speed, volume, and character of motor vehicles, and when you designate these roads on which golf carts can travel, there's signage that's required. So you have to go through a process in order to allow golf carts to do it. How extensive that process is depends on, again, how much regulations you want to put onto that. So generally, that's the information for golf carts. You would need to do a review, identify where you want to allow them. It's a process, but it's prohibited on public roads. There's a statute on that. On the other type of vehicle, I haven't, again, I was able to verify that this evening, so I don't know if there's a statute that governs that type of vehicle specifically.
All right. Brian, any comment?
Well, personally, I don't have a problem with someone using a golf cart or a mule or something to check their mail and stuff. The thing I do have a problem with, though, are the kids with the dirt bikes and the ATVs tearing up our roads. That's my only issue that I have. People, you know, they're
Abusing the roads.
abusing the roads, but someone just going to check their mail or going to their friend's house or going to the nursery. I personally don't have a problem with it, but I do think that there are state regulations against it, so I'm not sure what we can use.
Okay, Ron?
I spoke with Lieutenant Combs this week about this subject, okay? Like Mike says, there's a process, to find out that process and for us to pick the age we're going to allow them, because I don't agree with a child or a teenager under a certain age to be running around with golf carts or side-by-sides, okay? And I found out that in Loxahatchee, whether it's a quad or side-by-side or a golf cart, there's people out there that ride around on them and they look for access to homes, they steal. And it makes it very good for them, because especially with these side-by-sides, okay, they're 4x4s, they can go where cars can't go. And they've done it on my street, they do it throughout Loxahatchee. Most of those side-by-sides, you're going to see nursery workers driving those for work. Some of the ones I've seen, I can't speak for all of them, they've got the triangle sign for agriculture. Okay, I believe the one thing that Mark can do for us is we can express to Lieutenant Combs and his staff that works Loxahatchee area that we do not want them to be ticketed. But as far as a PBSO coming up to them and say, hey, what are you doing, where are you going, and stuff like that, I don't want them to stop that, because they've got to justify what they're doing on our roads. If they're going from one point of business to another point, then they can explain that to the PBSO. He can verify that by following them there. So, and Lieutenant Combs said that if it does not have a license and a registration, by law, it's not legal. Okay, and we as a town will fall liable for that. And I believe when it comes to golf carts and side-by-sides, adults and kids need to be supervised when they're running around Loxahatchee. Not just for the citizens' protection, but for their own protection. We got some weirdos out there that if they see a young child on a golf cart, okay, you know, it's dangerous. So I don't like the idea of kids running through Loxahatchee. And I've got cousins that fish along D Road Canal and stuff like that. And so far, one of them was stopped by PBSO, but he was not ticketed. Okay, he was warned. And that's where we as a town can express to Lieutenant Combs that, you know, please don't be giving them tickets, give them a warning or whatever. but we can control it that way. But no, for us to make it possible for, and the way it works is if we allow gators and stuff like that, if we advertise it, and we say it's legal in Loxahatchee Groves, you can take my word for it. They'll be coming from the acreage, they'll be coming from all over just to have fun in Loxahatchee. And they do have gators and stuff for fun and not just work. They use them for hunting, they use them for riding through the area and stuff like that. So that's how I feel about that. I think the process Mike's talking about is definitely going to cost the town money to get a legal opinion from a traffic guy and stuff like that. We're going to have to pick an age. Do we allow a 10-year-old to run down on a golf cart? You run into troubles with kids and teenagers on golf carts and side-by-sides when it comes to horses. Okay, I've seen it happen. Okay, they do not have the same respect as an adult on a quad that's working for a living when it comes to bypassing horses on easements and stuff like that. And then we talk about, do we want to pick certain roads or certain canal easements that we allow them to ride on? Okay, if they go over in the canal, I'm telling you right now, this town is going to be liable. And if they're a child, we're going to be liable because they didn't have an adult with them. And if they confront a horse on a lot of equestrians ride all our easements and stuff, especially over on Hay Road. So I just don't like that here,
Okay. You want to add something?
No, I just like to get the information as I asked.
Okay. I've always often thought Loxahatchee Groves has been a very unique community. Many of you know my son Eric, who's an Air Force pilot. Back then, nobody cared that they drove their dirt bikes up and down the road. And he never went over the speed limit. He always wore a helmet. And he would ride to his friend's house over in the acreage and ride back home. And he never got in trouble about it. During the hurricane, I've been visited by my neighbors on their golf cart. And, I think that if we allow horses on the road, then it doesn't work to allow golf carts on the road, because we are a very unique community. And it seems like we're getting more and more like Wellington and everybody else every day. And these are some of the things that I don't mind at all. So maybe we say an adult's got to be on the cart with them, if they ride it. Maybe we say golf carts only, and that's a starting point. I think number one, the horses can go on our roads, but none of these carts would be able to go on horse trails. We're really not talking about anybody intimidating. I've got nurseries up and down my road, and they all drive their mules and their gators and their golf carts up and down the road, and nobody seems to ask them. So, but anyway. All right, are we going to look into this? I've got some public comments. Ken Foster.
Ken Foster.
4. Let's, Ken, what?
Ken Johnson.
Ken Johnson, I'm sorry. Ken Foster. It's been a long night. Sorry about that.
Foster's, eh?
Mr. Mayor and council members, I'm going to sort of disagree with some of what's been said here. One, in order for a police officer to determine if it's an adult driving it, it may look like an adult, but he doesn't know how old the person is. He's going to have to stop. So the police are going to have to stand by the law, because that's what they're charged with. And they're going to have to stop more people to determine what's going on. So, to start putting all these variations of what they can do here and what they can't do here and what letter roads and et cetera, to me, the question is already answered. Let the police do their job. 2, what does the state say? The state says it's got to be licensed, right? That's a state law. So, I see them just about every day. I don't see them wearing helmets. It's a safety thing. They are wearing helmets. They don't have seat belts on. Most of them are extremely loud. When it comes to the side-by-sides and these big ATVs, they take off at B Road and they go down Collecting Canal. I wish I had a speed gun.
That's probably ATVs though.
Yeah, I understand. But what I'm saying is that there's so many variations that I think we're going to create a bigger problem than we've got now. Just go by what the state says and say, hey, they're all that. Thank you.
Okay, Frank Schauer.
Frank Schauer, Marcelo Boulevard. The villages up in south of Ocala, they're their own municipality. There are more golf carts up there than there are cars. They also have the Gator type vehicles. And they require certain things. They require that if you're going to be in a golf cart, they have a driver's license from the state. They have lights on the front and the back of your vehicle, whether it's golf cart or ATV or whatever. So, in researching this a few years back, that it was up to the municipality if they wanted to go ahead and allow that. So having parameters is a very good idea. Having a 12 or 13-year-old on a golf cart or on a quad or whatever, on a Gator is not a good idea. I've seen the after effects of that. But having somebody that's got a driver's license, because if you are involved in an accident on one of those things, you can be ticketed, because it is a vehicle, just like being on a bicycle. If you're involved in an accident, you're drunk on a bicycle, you still get arrested for DUI. So, and when I did talk to the villages about this a few years ago, when I was actually up there, they said, yeah, we're our own municipality. We can go ahead and make those rules, and they can be enforced, and they actually do use, because they're actually in two separate counties, that's how big they are, that they actually have two separate sheriff's offices that they contract with, and then they went to, I believe, their own police department later on, but it was all about, well, whatever you guys want to do is fine with us, as long as it's done by ordinance and it's done legal. So that's how they got around it. And at the same time, if your license was revoked or if you were caught drunk driving or something like that, then that was something that you couldn't do. They're a little more tightly controlled in those adult communities, but it gives us a sort of a starting point, because right now, like you said, Dave, down on your street, you have a lot of those side-by-sides, I guess you call them. And, there's nothing really to stop the sheriff's office from saying, hey, you know what? We don't want them on the road. Now all of a sudden you put the nurseries, they've cut their business down. And now instead of having those little vehicles on there, pulling those carts, now you have a big truck that's putting more weight on the road and all that. So I look at it as from my point of view, that's something that I wanted to do, was buy a four-seater. And it's nice when I can go ahead and go down to see the Spices, or if I want to go around the corner and all that. I'm not getting in a big truck. I'm going something that's smaller and everything. And but at the same time, the sheriff's office did say, look, if you go there, we can't ticket you, and we probably will. So, do I want to get a ticket and have my insurance go up and all that? I don't think so.
Thank you, Frank. Nina Corning?
I'm not running the roads. I hope my voice is going to hold up. So, this was brought up in front of the Green Road Committee. Actually, we asked people to come up and ask us to have golf carts on the Green Road, which is nothing that is motorized can be on these greenways. On the shared areas where roads, driveways, and that sort of thing meets is a different story. Now, we are an agricultural town, so we do have horse people that have gators that bring out, foliage and so forth out to the road. We have golf carts in the nurseries more so. Of course, we can tend to use the gators. Those are UTVs. They're not ATVs. ATVs are a completely different animal, and it is not something that we would even consider allowing. I had an incident actually on horse with my daughter. I had a lame horse who came back a bit late, and I had two ATVs flying at me. And I screamed at the top of my lungs, and they couldn't hear me because they were so busy with each other. It's a totally different animal. It's not what we're looking at. but it is an agricultural town. We need to be able to operate as such. That means, people come out of their driveways, and maybe the garbage isn't right there by the driveway, maybe it's just a little bit down, and we need to be able to deposit that. That's just a normal function. It doesn't mean somebody should get ticketed. Children operating these vehicles is a whole other subject. But just making it capable for people to do what they need to do in this town, keep them off the greenways, and keep them actually where it's safer, and keeping our roads at a speed limit and as a way of what we want in this community of having something safe, and something that I see as a character of this town has to be possible some way. Thank you.
Okay, Virginia.
Virginia Spanish, 15410 North Road. I love the legal profession. They will take your money and make things as difficult as you let them. And as a resident, I expect you to use common sense and keep things as simple as possible. And as Mr. Shiola has explained to you, there are communities and municipalities that have this rule, ordinance, whatever you want to call it. You can make this as simple as needed and have golf carts and agricultural vehicles on the road. Now, a little benefit, and Mr. Cutney may elaborate on this at some point if he chooses to in the future, but I believe by allowing golf carts on our road, it may prevent us from having to be FDOT everywhere. Just a small detail that is conveniently left out of this conversation that I would like to make sure you are all aware of. Since we seem to have a need for FDOT roads as compared to last year promising us we didn't need them, I think you're right that it should be adults with licenses, because I live across from Ian Trail, the favorite spot of kids taking the nursery parents' gator and golf carts, piling on 8 at a time. I watch the little girls on their ATVs running down to D Road. They're putting their lives in danger to go use their ATVs because somebody's got a little ATV ramp and it's safe for the kids, but it's sure not safe for them to be on the road. So I think being on the road is a good idea. With golf carts and gators, keeping them off the trails would cause problems and legal issues, and I think you can do it very simply.
Okay, thank you, Virginia.
Ron, if I could wrap up. Apparently the consensus of folks is kids shouldn't be driving, they shouldn't be on the greenways, and they shouldn't be ATVs. I never suggested any of the three. So my initial suggestion remains the same, that we allow use on the road. Once Michael has researched exactly what it is we need, we can discuss it at that point.
Okay, everybody all right with researching? Well,
I don't have a problem with that, but Frank said driver's license, okay? That's not asking too much. Because if they get stopped, they've got to have some type of identification. If they're not old enough to have a driver's license, then I don't think they need to be under.
And one thing about the driver's license, and something I considered because of this, is I am not trying to create an illegal alien transportation. Okay, I'm not trying to motorize it.
less bicycle than worry. Okay.
So the statute already prohibits anybody from 18.
Okay.
The statute, regardless if you allow it, statute.
Right, and I think under 16 you have to have, I know on ATVs you have to have helmets until you're 16. Okay. So, but not that I want ATVs on our roads at all.
All right. So Ron's all right with looking into it? Come on, we look into it? Okay.
Thank you, Judge.
Let's look into it, see what we can come up with. All right. Moving to closing comments. I've got two by the public, Virginia and John Bryan. Virginia, come on up.
Virginia Standish, 15410 North Road. I'd like to bring to the attention of the town management and town council a much-needed topic for the next intergovernmental meeting. I would like it discussed why there are still dangerous areas of erosion left unrepaired for several weeks on district roads. I will be bringing this to Mr. Yogi's attention and I will be bringing it to the attention of the Waxahachie Grove Water Control District supervisors also. And I'm bringing this up tonight only because I haven't been taking B Road, but several weeks ago I took B Road, North B Road, and there's 2 areas of erosion, and I actually took a picture tonight when I was coming home because I noticed it, it's been 3 weeks, that the cones are up and now they're laying over in the dirt. There's a large area in the berm that is open, and it has been open for several weeks. We got supposedly a supervisor driving, we got people driving that should be seeing this, and there's another side of the east side of the road which has an area of erosion that could cause a washout. So I just want to bring that to your attention that we're worried about all these other road issues, but we still have basic road services that we are all paying for that are being neglected. Thank you.
Virginia, before you leave, Virginia,
Oh.
did you call and report it to the district?
I'm going to do that tomorrow. I just wanted to bring your attention, I just saw this tonight that it was still open. I'm bringing it to Mr. Yogi's attention by email or phone call tomorrow, and I will, one of the 2 supervisors are here, but I will also bring it to their attention at the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, John Wright.
John Ryan, 3508 A Road. When the town and the district discussed the B Road improvements with Palm Beach State College, I want to remind everybody that we need to obtain an acknowledgement from the college that just like every other nonprofit in Waxahachie Groves, they will be subject to acre assessments. They get the same road and flood control benefits as everybody else. There's never been a question with regard to acre assessments for the churches, the hospitals, the animal rescues, or the research foundations. But we got notice a couple of weeks ago that Palm Beach State College is claiming an exemption for their 75 acres under some state statute. And as I understand it, our attorney has advised us that we can simply obtain an acknowledgement that they will not claim that exemption. And I think we all need to be aware of that, town staff and the district in the discussions with the college over the B Road improvements.
Thank you, John.
Okay.
Okay.
I think it's not just Palm Beach State College that's doing this.
All Palm Beach schools.
Yeah, all Palm Beach schools are not
State
paying
line.
their bills.
There was a case that came out that said you couldn't require it unless they agreed to it, give or take. So a lot of the school systems are saying we're not going to pay anymore.
So it's interesting because then when you cut them off from the drainage, I think they're going to get upset.
Well, they don't just get upset. They've already sued about that in other parts of the state when they've been cut off.
So they don't want to pay for it, but they want somebody else to do it.
That's
Something,
It's not a
acknowledgement
deal.
we should have got last year when the only chance for us to get anything from them was.
But we did talk about that.
It's not a deal, whatever, but it's not anything that we assess.
All right, town attorney comments. Michael? Okay. Council members, Tom?
That's it. Thanks everybody for coming. Thanks, gentlemen, for considering my concerns.
Okay.
We'll see you next time.
Okay, Ron?
2 things. I'd like a consensus from the council tonight. The town clerk drew up a petition. We have a couple options. This red light at Southern at D Road. I do feel like we need a petition signed by the residents of Waxahachie Groves. The more people we get to sign this petition, the more influence we're going to have on FDOT. I'd like to read this. I'd like to go with, if the consensus agree with me, I'd like to go with a petition with the town label on it. If they don't agree with me, then I'll go with a petition from Ron Gerald. But it's not going to pull as much weight as the town of Waxahachie Groves. And here's what the petition says. It gives the address of the town office. This petition form is intended to be completed and submitted to the Florida Department of Transportation for purposes of identifying the need for a traffic signal, underlined, at the intersection of D Road and Southern Boulevard, State Road 80, in the town of Waxahachie Groves, Florida. This petition will identify the citizens in favor of such traffic light since it affects the welfare and safety of all citizens, as well as all those traveling on Southern Boulevard. The intersection is already a dangerous intersection, as Southern Boulevard is widened to 6 lanes, which may involve median adjustments. A truly hazardous intersection could be created and would further endanger the vehicles pulling out of D Road onto Southern Boulevard. And then it just says the following citizens of the town of Waxahachie Groves, Florida, request the FDOT to install a traffic signal at the intersection of D Road and Southern Boulevard. And it's got a print name, address, signature, and phone number. So I'd like to get a consensus of the council if they're in agreement of using this petition.
I would like to support this petition and also suggest we write one and change it out to say Palm Beach County and D Road in Okeechobee, and ask them to put it in and pay for it. Do 2 petitions while we're at it, since Ron's going to be organizing this. And let's get it done. I agree with it.
And I agree with Tom. Tom can handle the one at D Road in Okeechobee, and I'll take care of the one that's, but no, hey, because first of all, a petition will help. In other words, when we approach the county and ask them to pay, they're responsible for D Road in Okeechobee. So a petition would be very helpful when we go in front of the county commissioners. And Jeff Santa Maria, that would make him feel better to know that we had, I think we got like 8,000 and something people in Waxahachie Groves, okay? Now, if you open up to take 3,000 or something, okay, 8,000 or something.
If they stand next to mirrors.
But no, if we get the majority of people in Waxahachie to sign a petition, my cause is Southern and D Road. And the only other thing, do we have a consensus?
It's just important because of the use of the town logo, so it will be
Everybody's
a
fine
town
with that.
petition. That's all.
Do we need to vote on it, or just?
No, unless there's an objection, it's a town petition.
Any objection?
Right. The only other thing I'd like to read to you is, we got our first letter from the Division of Forestries, the district manager out of Davie. Dear Mr. Cutney, it has come to my attention that the Florida Department of Transportation is considering changes to Southern Boulevard and Waxahachie Groves area. I wanted to express the concerns of the Florida Forest Service regarding our emergency response vehicles that are stationed on D Road, and to communicate the need for a red light at Southern Boulevard intersection. Our forestry station headquarters for the Palm Beach County area is located on D Road, approximately 1/2 mile north of Southern Boulevard. Our emergency response vehicles respond to wildland fires throughout the county from this location. Most of our response routes take us south on D Road and turn either east or west on Southern Boulevard. Response times are critical in the business of suppressing wildland fires. The more time that elapses due to response travel allows the fire to continue to spread. The sooner the suppression equipment arrives on the fire scene, the better the chances of suppressing the fire while it is small and has not had time to grow in size. We support the concept of installing a traffic light at Southern Boulevard and D Road intersection. This will enhance the response times of our emergency response vehicles and eliminate the need to travel in the direction opposite of our response destination. David Crane, District Manager. Now, I talked to him on a Friday evening, and we got this, or no, a Monday morning. I talked to him on a Monday morning of this week, and we had this letter in the office by Friday. So, and Fire Rescue, I spoke with Fire Rescue, I spoke with PBSO, Fire Rescue, I spoke with the Deputy Chief of the Palm Beach County Fire Rescue. He's in agreement that it supports Station 21, which is between D and E Road, south side of Okeechobee, and he agrees that they'll get us a letter from Fire Rescue. Now, the more information and the more stuff we have to put in front of the state, and the other thing is, when I spoke with Senator Russo's office, they want to see stuff like that. They want to see a petition from the people. That was their priority, was we want to know what the people of Waxahachie want. And the senator has already communicated with FDOT, and Mark Pafford is on board with helping us. So that's where we stand. But so far we get a good response. I met with Jeff Santa Maria, and he agrees that we justify having a red light there, and he's willing to support us. And hopefully the next meeting with him would be with me, Mark, and George Webb, and him at the county, and whether the engineering department supports it or not, they can give us input that will help us prepare to argue the point with FDOT. So that's where we're standing. Each week or each couple of weeks, we're moving ahead with it. At least I feel positive about it. Thank you.
Okay. Ryan, comments?
Not much today.
Okay. Jim?
Thank everybody for coming.
Okay, and the only ones I've got is on D Road, south of Altman Nursery. The east side of the Ocean Road, D Road, is washing up pretty bad. They're potholes. When it rains, you can't see them, and they're deep. And the trucks from Altman, have been sloughing that side off as they move over or as they drive down the side of that road. I've only noticed it between Altman and Okeechobee, but they're deep. And somebody's going to break an axle. There's no cones. There's nothing out there. Somebody needs to get some rock or something in those to fill them up, something that won't wash away, and until they can be repaired. But they're moving very quickly onto the road surface, and so something needs to be done. Thank you all for coming.
I agree with what you just said. It's the same thing. I did compare the difference between our problems and north. But one of the reasons we're going to have this kind of problem wherever you run is they do not do the edge fillback, which was pointed out when they put in the Ojum, that they should have pushed it back, Ojum it back in, and created a berm there rather than a drop off. So it's going to be something that you're going to have. Heavy trucks are going to be aggravated. Sure. We have that issue.
Sure. All right. So anyway, thank you all for coming. Motion to adjourn. Second. Make sure we sign these papers while we're here.
One of them.
Hot rod Cirola.
You have to stay at the class.
I know, you're right, you're right.